Chapter 392. How can you be so sure that Miss Liang's inkstone is real and Yao Yao's is fake? Lin Jia's question caused the entire banquet hall to fall silent, and many people's gazes fell upon him. Under everyone's gazes, Lin Jie didn't show the slightest sign of nervousness. He continued staring at Shi Yao's side profile lazily, and after she swallowed the cake in her mouth, he picked up another piece and fed it to her mouth. Then, with the same nonchalant tone as before, he asked, "Is it Miss Liang who swears that her inkstone is real, or is it Yao Yao who personally admits that her inkstone is fake?" Hearing those words, Lin Jie immediately snapped out of her daze and said, "Indeed, Jie is right. The two inkstones do look similar, but we can't be sure which one is real and which one is fake. Why is everyone so adamant that Yao Yao's inkstone is fake?" "That's right, Miss Lin's words do make sense." "Indeed. Isn't it a little too careless to say that the Lin family's granddaughter-in-law's inkstone is fake without appraising it?" Following Lin Jie's words, quite a few people also changed their tune. Hearing the whispers of the crowd, Lin Jie couldn't help but curl his lips into a mocking smile. These spectators sure are amusing. Didn't they say that Soft Bun's inkstone was fake just a second ago? Why did they immediately change their tune after being reminded by me a second later? What's wrong with this world? Is it because I, Li Bai, can't get big, or is I, Diao Chan, lacking in mana? Why is this world so weird? With this thought in mind, Lin Jie fed Shi Yao another piece of cake. But barely after Shi Yao swallowed the cake, Shen Balian, who was standing beside Liang Mumu, suddenly spoke up, "Is there even a need to ask whether the inkstone is real or not? Mumu spent 300,000 renminbi to buy it from an official source, so it has to be real." This time, before Lin Jie could say anything, Lin Jie had already interjected, "Does buying it from an official source mean that it's real? Besides, the authenticity of an item doesn't have much to do with its price, does it? There are plenty of people who spend a lot of money to buy fake products, so how do you explain that?" Seemingly displeased by Lin Jie's words, Shen Balian opened her mouth, intending to refute her. But it was a pity that Lin Jie didn't give her the opportunity to do so. He immediately spoke up, "Sis, what you said is incorrect. If a person doesn't have the ability to discern the authenticity of an item, they would have to purchase it through the proper channels. Only those who do have the ability to discern the authenticity of an item would head to the market." At this moment, upon hearing Lin Jie's words, Liang Mumu, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke up, "That's right. I don't have the ability to verify the authenticity of these items, so when I bought the inkstone, I had to purchase it through a certified channel." Just whose side was that dog Lin Jie on? Why are you helping Liang Mumu now? Having been held back, Lin Jie glared at Lin Jie in displeasure. Sensing Lin Jie's killing intent, Lin Jie continued feeding Shi Yao the cake with an impassive expression. When it came to acting, he had never been afraid of anyone. Wasn't it obvious that Liang Mumu had been led into a trap by him? Since the pit was already dug and the person was already inside, he could now start burying the pit. Chapter 393. I remember that Uncle Gu is an expert in appraising. I saw him on the guest list a while ago. May I know where he's seated today? Hearing those words, Lin Jie craned his neck to scan the surroundings. I remember Uncle Gu being an expert in appraising. The person in charge of the guest list was Lin Jie's aunt, Lin Gunan. Hearing Lin Jie's doubt, she immediately replied, "I know. He's at the first row by the window." Having already known where Uncle Gu was, Lin Jie glanced in the direction his aunt had pointed out and acted as if he had seen the person he was looking for. A moment later, realization dawned on him, and he said, "Ah, I see Uncle Gu. Sis, it's more convenient for you over there, so may I trouble you to invite Uncle Gu over?" Lin Jie replied readily, sure. Before she stood up, Lin Jie added, for Yao Yao's sake, I'm running an errand for you for free. If it had been any other time, I would have charged you a fee. Speechless, Lin Jie's lips twitched, but he didn't say a word. To think that a money grubber could be to such an extent, it was truly frightening. It didn't take long for Lin Jie to invite Uncle Gu over. Uncle Gu had a close relationship with Lin Jie's father, Lin Gubei, so he first greeted Grandpa Lin and exchanged a few pleasantries with Lin Gubei before getting straight to the point, asking if there was anything he needed help with. Lin Jie first politely greeted Uncle Gu before briefly explaining the situation to him. Finally, he got straight to the point. Uncle Gu, the reason why I invited you here is to have you appraise these 2 inkstones. Which one is the real one and which one is the fake? Hearing Lin Jie's words, Yao nearly choked on her cake. So, young Master Lin actually invited an expert over to appraise her inkstone. But her inkstone was probably just a blade of grass, and a blade of grass that cost 200 renminbi at that. Was young Master Lin really here to help her? Was he trying to harm her? With such thoughts in mind, Yao hurriedly swallowed the cake in her mouth and tried to stop him. It was one thing if he didn't appraise the inkstone, but if he were to appraise it for real, wouldn't she become a laughingstock? However, barely after Yao said, wait, Lin Jie stuffed another piece of cake into her mouth and said, Uncle Gu, before you start appraising, I'll have to ask you to wait for a moment. As he spoke, he turned to Liang Mumu and asked, Miss Liang, may I know which inkstone you have? Liang Mumu pointed to her inkstone and said, it's this. Auntie Sun. Lin Jie barely managed to utter those 2 words before he suddenly paused. Forget it, I think it's best not to call her Auntie Sunday. If Auntie Sun were to bring the inkstone over to Miss Liang, and the results of the appraisal didn't meet Miss Liang's expectations, Miss Liang might say that Auntie Sun had tampered with the inkstone and try to frame Miss Liang. If so, we'll be in deep trouble. So, Miss Liang, I think it would be best for you to carry your inkstone in your embrace. Remember to hold it tightly so that you don't drop it. Hearing Lin Jie's sarcasm, Liang Mumu's face turned a little awkward, but she still picked up her inkstone. After confirming that there were no problems, Lin Jie turned to Uncle Gu and said, Uncle Gu, I'll be troubling you then. Yao's body shuddered. Do you really have to bring disaster upon us so quickly? Can't you at least give us a little buffer? Chapter 394. Who wants to eat cake? Who has the heart to eat cake? Yao shook her head. I don't want to eat cake. I just want to. Before she could finish her words, Lin Jie had already cut her off. It's a good thing that you don't want to eat it anymore. If you wanted to eat it again, I wouldn't have given it to you. Is there something wrong with this person's head? My main point isn't the first half of my sentence but the second half, all right? Yao glared at Lin Jie angrily. What I want to say has nothing to do with cake. What I want to say is, oh. Lin Jie dragged out his words, as if he had figured out the reason behind it. I know what you want to say. You want to say thank you, right? Thank you. You look like thank you. Yao felt that the upbringing she'd built up since young was about to be destroyed because of Lin Jie. You want to thank me for feeding you cake, right? There's no need to thank me. Lin Jie replied generously. Afraid that Yao would really say something that she shouldn't have, he quickly added. To tell you the truth, the only thing I've taken the initiative to feed since I was young is a panda. What did he mean by that? Was he treating her like a panda? All of a sudden, Yao didn't feel like talking to Lin Jie anymore. She turned her head around to look at Lin Jie. Ah. Is Soft Bun unhappy? Was there a problem with what I said earlier? Lin Jie pondered over his words seriously for a moment before coming to a realization. He leaned in close to Yao and whispered, what I said earlier wasn't treating you like a panda. I meant that you're just like a panda, you're the panda. You're just like a panda from head to toe. Shi Yao's head twisted even more violently. The only thing Lin Jiej could see was black hair and black hair. Without thinking too much into it, Lin Jiej continued speaking. Think about it, what are pandas? They're the country's treasures. As a patriot, feeding pandas is a patriotic act. The reason why I said that you're just like a panda isn't because you're a panda but because you're my. Before Lin Jiej could say the word treasure, he suddenly realized what he had just said and fell silent. Even though he didn't finish his words, Shi Yao could already guess what he was going to say. Her heart skipped a beat, and she couldn't help but lower her eyelids. The two of them stopped talking. The surroundings suddenly became even quieter. Everyone's attention was on Uncle Gu. After about 5 minutes, Uncle Gu took off his glasses after carefully examining the two inkstones. Lin Jie anxiously asked, Uncle Gu, what's the result of your appraisal? Uncle Gu wasn't in a hurry to respond to Lin Jie's words. Out of respect, he greeted Old Master Lin first before picking up the inkstone Shi Yao had bought. With a curious look on his face, he asked, Did Miss Shi buy this inkstone? Lin Jiej's words had thrown Shi Yao's mind into disarray, so she fell silent for a moment. Sitting beside her, Lin Jiej patted her head lightly and said, Panda, Uncle Gu is asking you a question. Who are you calling a panda? Chapter 395. Miss Shi, may I ask how much did you spend on this inkstone? This. Compared to Liang Mumu's 300,000 renminbi, her money really didn't seem to be worth mentioning at all. Shi Yao understood the principle of honesty, so even though she was placed in a difficult position, she still spoke the truth. I bought it with 200 renminbi. 200 renminbi. Uncle Gu was astonished. Clearly, he didn't believe Shi Yao's words at all. With a chuckle, he said, Miss Shi, you must be joking with me. I'm afraid that you'll have to add at least 3 more zeros behind the 200 renminbi, right? 3 zeros. Wouldn't that be 200,000 renminbi? You must be joking. Her monthly living expenses were only 1,000 renminbi, so where did she get 200,000 renminbi from? Shi Yao shook her head and replied earnestly, No, I'm not joking, Uncle Gu. I really bought it with 200 renminbi. Uncle Gu stared at Shi Yao for a moment, and knowing that she wasn't joking with him, he continued, Then, Miss Shi, if I may be so bold as to ask you, where did you buy it from? Oh. Compared to how much it cost, this question was much easier to answer. Without any hesitation, Shi Yao replied. I bought it from an antique market. I picked it up from a random shop. Antique market. Even though there were many people there, it was possible that those who were knowledgeable in the trade might be able to get their hands on some good stuff. Hearing those words, Uncle Gu seemed to have vaguely understood something, and he continued asking, Miss Shi, do you have some understanding of appraising? After allowing Uncle Gu to ask a few more questions to Shi Yao, Lin Jiej finally got to the crux of the matter. Without waiting for Shi Yao to speak, he asked curiously, Uncle Gu, don't keep us in suspense. Why don't you get straight to the point? Indeed, little Gu. You should get straight to the point. Grandpa Lin also chimed in. Seeing that Grandpa Lin had spoken up, Uncle Gu didn't press Shi Yao any further. Instead, he turned to Grandpa Lin and explained, Miss Shi, this inkstone is a 1 in a million treasure. This is an inkstone that has been passed down from the Qing dynasty, and it has several hundred years of history. Hearing those words, Shi Yao thought that she was hallucinating. She blinked her eyes frantically, but the scenery around her hadn't changed at all. So, she wasn't dreaming. Was she hallucinating? Shi Yao couldn't help but discreetly touch her ears. Following which, she heard Grandpa Lin's voice, Little Gu, does that mean that the birthday present Yao Yao gave me is the real deal? Of course, it's even more authentic than gold. The market value of this inkstone is at least $200,000. Furthermore, old Mr. Lin, look at the jade on this inkstone. It's clear and translucent. One look and you can tell that it's a superior product. 200,000. But Yao Yao said that she bought it with 200 renminbi. As Lin Jia spoke, she turned to Shi Yao and asked, Yao Yao, did you win the lottery behind our backs? Feeling as if she was dreaming, the dazed Shi Yao shook her head and replied, I didn't. I really spent 200 renminbi to buy it. That's why this is incredible. The antique market is a mystical place. Those who are knowledgeable about it are able to find priceless treasures at a very low price. Yet, Miss Shi managed to find a treasure worth $200,000 with just 200 renminbi. What does this mean? It means that Miss Shi is an expert in this field. Uncle Gu chimed in, and the more he spoke, the more agitated he became. Let me tell you, in the field of appraising, experience is the most important factor. This is the first time I've seen such an incredible appraiser at such a young age. Grandpa Lin. Chapter 396. Expert. Genius. Shi Yao felt as if she had just heard a heavenly book, and she felt even more lightheaded. Who is she? Where is she? What is she going through? I see. Grandpa Lin nodded calmly, but in the next second, he couldn't help but burst into laughter. Yao Yao has always been so formidable. She's always able to surprise me. Ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha, Uncle Gu, Grandpa Lin, congratulations on having such a formidable granddaughter-in-law. You're too kind. Grandpa Lin spoke as politely as he could, but there was a hint of pride in his eyes, as if saying that it was only natural. Seeing that Grandpa Lin and Uncle Gu had forgotten about the important matter at hand, Lin Jia hurriedly interjected, Uncle Gu, since the appraisal results for Yao Yao's inkstone are out, what about Miss Liang's? Her inkstone. Before Lin Jia could finish her words, Uncle Gu had already interjected, you mean the other inkstone? There's no need to appraise it at all. Anyone with the slightest bit of knowledge should be able to tell that it's a fake with a single glance. A fake? Liang Mumu, who had been confident all this while, suddenly exclaimed in astonishment, how is that possible? I spent 300,000 renminbi on it, how could it be a fake? Shi Yao was equally astonished. The inkstone that Liang Mumu spent 300,000 renminbi on was actually a fake. And the one she spent 200 renminbi on was a real one. Liang Mumu had intended to frame her, but she ended up going for wool and coming home shorn. Did she just get lucky? Did she just lie down and bully her? But it's a fake. Look at this inkstone. It looks very high-end, isn't it? But in truth, it's because the merchant had soaked it in oil beforehand to create a false impression. This isn't jade at all but a stone similar to jade, Uncle Gu explained to Liang Mumu's bewilderment. After saying those words, he turned to Grandpa Lin and asked, Grandpa Lin, I would like to speak with Miss Shi a little longer. May I know if that's all right? Grandpa Lin, of course, of course. I'll be troubling you then. After exchanging some pleasantries with Grandpa Lin, Uncle Gu turned to Shi Yao and asked, Miss Shi, may I ask you where you learned your appraising skills from? Appraising skills? Who did you learn it from? She couldn't even learn A, C, F, G, and conic curves and radii. How could she have the leisure to appraise treasures? Besides, even if she really had the leisure, she wouldn't learn to appraise treasures. Treasures couldn't be eaten as food. As a qualified foodie, if she had the time, she would definitely learn to cook first. Did this Uncle Gu get bewitched or was he bewitched? All he asked was a bunch of random questions. Even though Shi Yao was grumbling in her heart, she still replied politely and honestly, Uncle Gu, I haven't learned anything in this field before. Never learned it before. How could this be? If he hadn't learned it before, how could he buy a premium item for 200 yuan? Uncle Gu pondered for a moment, and the only possibility he could think of was, so, Miss Sure is just a hobby. With that thought in mind, Uncle Gu turned to look at old Master Lin, who was standing at the side, and exclaimed in amazement, even an amateur can be so powerful. This means that he has extraordinary talent. Old Master Lin, this is not just a simple genius, this is a genius. Genius? Shi Yao blinked her eyes in confusion. Chapter 397. Even though it was a joyous occasion to be complimented, Shi Yao still felt a little guilty. She couldn't help but speak up once more, Uncle Gu, I'm really just lucky. I was introduced to a shop by a friend, and I saw that the inkstone wasn't too bad. When I saw that it only cost 200 renminbi, I quickly paid for it and ran away with it, to buy an inkstone worth 200,000 renminbi for 200 renminbi. Who would believe her if she said that she didn't know how to appraise it? Hearing Shi Yao's words, Uncle Gu thought that she was just being humble, and his respect for her deepened. Old Master Lin, youngsters these days are getting more and more prideful. It's rare to see someone as humble as your granddaughter-in-law. Furthermore, Miss Shi only treated it as paying for it before running away with it. This shows that she's decisive. Excuse me. You can be praised for being humble even if you speak the truth these days. How can you be praised for being decisive if you're afraid that the seller will go back on his words? Shi Yao's eyes blinked even more intensely. Who could tell her what kind of tricks Uncle Gu was playing? Or can someone tell me that my name is really Shi Yao and not Cheat? Hearing Uncle Ge's compliments, old Master Lin was even more delighted, and he couldn't stop smiling. Of course. Look at who's the one who decided to be his granddaughter-in-law. Grandpa Lin, calm down, don't get complacent, don't get complacent, Shi Yao prayed in her heart, but it didn't work at all. Old Master Lin's compliments grew even louder. Little Gu, it's not that I want to brag, but Yao Yao has always been a good student, beautiful, considerate, and filial. She's truly a top-notch lady. Our Lin clan has really picked up a treasure. Hugging the inkstone that Uncle Gu had identified as a fake, Liang Mumu looked at old Master Lin's gleeful expression, then at the Lin clan's smiling face, and finally at Jiang Wangui's face. When she saw the usually unsmiling Jiang Wangui's lips curling up into a smile, she couldn't help but tighten her grip on the inkstone in her hands. She really spent 300,000 renminbi on this inkstone, so how could it possibly be fake? Also, that Gu fellow kept coming up with new ways to flatter Shi Yao. Could he possibly be in cahoots with Shi Yao? She was clearly trying to make Shi Yao struggle on her deathbed, so why did she end up in such a pathetic state instead? Hearing Grandpa Lin's arrogant words of Yao Yao, Liang Mumu's body trembled in anger. She did not believe that her inkstone was fake. It must be Gu Liangchuan who was lying. The more she thought about it, the more indignant Liang Mumu felt. Eventually, she couldn't help but interrupt Grandpa Lin's words, Mr. Gu, your reputation isn't just for show, is it? Hearing Liang Mumu's words, Uncle Gu was stunned for a few seconds before he turned to Liang Mumu with a frown and asked, Miss Liang, what do you mean by that? What do you mean? That's what it means. Due to her rage, Liang Mumu's words had become a little irrational. You took a casual glance at my inkstone and declared that it's a fake. Judging from your perfunctory attitude, could it be that you're trying to curry favor with the Lin clan by spouting such nonsense? Chapter 398. Let me tell you, the item you're carrying in your hands can easily be found in night markets, tourist attractions, wholesale markets, and the internet. What do you mean by 300,000 renminbi? It's only worth 30 renminbi at most, and if you were to purchase it, it would only cost you around 10 renminbi. Don't think that my words are harsh, but I'm just telling you the truth. Unlike antiques like porcelain or ancient paintings, there's no upper limit to the price of an inkstone. It's not that there aren't any valuable inkstones in the world, but they're simply too rare. 200,000 renminbi is already an astronomical sum for an inkstone, and yet, you actually spent 300,000 renminbi on it. It's not that I want to criticize you, but how lacking of common sense do you have to be to do something like that? Could it be that you intentionally made up a fake to fool me, and now that I've seen through it, you're trying to blame me instead? Also, you said that I have an undeserved reputation. Of all the people here, there should be quite a few of you who have heard of me, right? I'm sure that there are quite a few of you who have come to me to appraise an inkstone, right? Miss Liang, you weren't doubting me with your words earlier but flaunting your ignorance. There's a saying that goes, ignorance isn't scary, what's scary is pretending to be ignorant. In this aspect, Miss Liang, I advise you to learn from Miss Shi and learn to be humble and courteous. Faced with Uncle Ji's sharp tongue, Liang Mumu didn't even have a chance to speak. In the end, her face turned pale and green under Uncle Ji's words, and it was hard to tell whether it was out of anger or speechlessness. Having been watching the show by the side, Lin Jiej knew that the pit was almost filled up, so he finally spoke up, Uncle Gu, I'm really sorry. I only came here to invite you to appraise an inkstone, but I didn't think that I would offend you instead. Forget it, forget it. There's no need for me to bicker with a junior. If there's nothing else for me here, I'll be returning to my seat to drink some wine. Uncle Gu waved his hand and left. But barely after taking 2 steps, Uncle Gu suddenly halted. There's something that I know isn't the right time to say, but after some thought, I still decided to say it. It's not that I'm trying to stir up trouble, but the real Miss Shi hasn't said a word at all. On the other hand, the fake Miss Liang has been incessantly stirring up trouble before I appraise it. After saying those words, Uncle Gu turned around and walked away. None of the people present were fools. Earlier, perhaps some of them hadn't thought too much about it. But now that Uncle Gu had pointed it out, everyone thought about the cause and effect, and gradually came to their senses. It would have been better if Mr. Gu didn't mention it. Now that you mention it, it's really scary. Miss Liang is so young, but she is so scheming. She clearly wants to make the Lin family's granddaughter-in-law a joke. Unfortunately, she shot herself in the foot. In the end, she became the laughingstock. Listening to the discussions around him, old Master Lin's expression became a little displeased. After all, he was the founder of Lin's enterprise, and his aura was still there. Usually, he looked happy like a kind old man, but when he was serious, he was full of courage. Huiling, you taught a good child. Chapter 399. Lin Jiej's aunt, Lin Gunan, interjected, Madam Liang, it's your responsibility to discipline them, so there's no need for you to tell us about it. You can just do it at home. As for paying us a visit to apologize, there's no need for you to do so. I doubt that my father, my elder brother, my sister-in-law, and my niece-in-law will be willing to accept your apology. Gu Nan is right. Jiang Wangue, who hadn't said a word since the beginning, finally spoke up. My Lin family's reputation isn't something that anyone can hit just because they want to. After doing so, they just need to apologize. Liang Huiling smiled apologetically and said, yes, yes, yes. Sister Wangue and Sister Gunan are right. This matter is too embarrassing. I'll discipline Mumu strictly when I get back. I hope you can calm down. Besides, today is Uncle Lin's birthday, so we should celebrate it happily. There's no need to make such a big fuss over such a small matter, don't you think? Small matter. Bullying Soft Bun is a small matter. Then, may I ask, what is a major event? A hint of displeasure flashed across the depths of Lin Jiej's eyes, but before anyone could speak up, he pretended to casually speak up, Auntie Liang, it seems like you really treat Miss Liang as your own daughter. Not only did you give her a huge sum of money, you even taught her not to do anything wrong. Following Lin Jiej's words, the crowd began whispering among themselves once more. Oh my god, isn't Miss Liang the biological daughter of the Liang family? Don't you know? She calls Liang Huiling auntie. She's not really the daughter of a rich family. She was adopted because her parents died early. Oh my god, I'm speechless. She's not even her biological daughter. How could she have the nerve to spend hundreds of thousands on a birthday present? Hearing the discussions around her, Liang Mumu's complexion turned even more awful. On the other hand, a satisfied smile curled up on Lin Jiej's lips. Didn't you just say that Soft Bun's family background is limited, thus causing Soft Bun to be criticized for her poor background? Alright then, I'll give you a taste of your own medicine and let everyone know that you're not the biological daughter of the Liang clan at all. She said it as if no one would lie to him. What was this called? The heavens would deal with the scum. I'm Soft Bun Sky. I'll take care of all the despicable people around her. However, Liang Huiling was right about one thing. Today was Grandpa's birthday. Grandpa's happiness came first. In many things, one should know when to stop before going too far. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej suddenly thought of something, and he asked, speaking of which, don't you usually give someone a birthday present in return? Andy Sun, who was in charge of returning the gifts, replied, yes, young master. Miss Liang and Miss Shin have both given my grandfather a birthday present. Even though it was such an unpleasant incident, I still have to return the favor. As Lin Jiej spoke, he fell into deep thought. A moment later, he spoke up once more. Auntie Sun, get the driver to buy a box of green tea from the supermarket to return the favor to Miss Liang. As for Miss Shin, haven't the lotuses in our backyard bloomed over the past few days? Ask the driver to pick one and give it to Miss Shin as a gift. Remember, it must be a white lotus, the whiter the better. Green tea, lotus flower. This was clearly a roundabout way of scolding people as green tea bitches and white lotus flowers. Shi Yao couldn't help but turn to look at Lin Jiej. Poison. This is way too poisonous. Everyone else in the room also caught the hint in Lin Jiej's words, and quite a few of them couldn't help but burst into laughter. This left Liang Mumu and Shin Bailian even more embarrassed. Alright, that's all for this matter. Lin Gubei, who hadn't stopped Lin Jiej all this while, finally stepped forward to speak up. He shot a glance at Liang Mumu and Shin Bailian, and with a relatively normal tone, he said, the two of you should return to your seats too. Wait a moment. Lin Jiai, who hadn't spoken a word yet, suddenly spoke up. Her words had drawn quite a few gazes in her direction. As if she didn't notice the gazes directed at her, she turned her gaze back to Liang Mumu and Shin Bailian and said, you can return to your seats, but before that, there's something you have to do. As she spoke, she shifted her gaze to Shi Yao and said, and that is to apologize to Yao Yao. Liang Mumu and Shin Bailian stood on the spot, not saying a word for a long time. Roughly half a minute later, Lin Jiai seemed to have lost her patience and spoke up once more, apologize. The two of them still didn't say a word. Frowning, Lin Jiai repeated once more, apologize. Apologize to Yao Yao. Liang Mumu pursed her lips, not saying a word. Shin Bailian turned her head away, but she didn't say a word. Lin Jiai abruptly stood up, raised her hand, and smashed it heavily on her chair. Following which, a crack appeared on the chair, and Lin Jiai's deep voice sounded once more, I said, apologize. Chapter 400. Lin Jiai's actions were too sudden and too explosive. Other than the dignified and virtuous Jiang Wangui, who was sipping on his tea, and Lin Jiej, who was already used to it, everyone else was shocked by Lin Jiai's actions. This was especially so for Liang Mumu and Shin Bailian. Their bodies trembled in fear, and their faces paled a little. Jai, look at how they're so frightened that they can't even speak. Is this alright? I'll apologize. As Liang Mumu's aunt, Liang Huiling was still a little protective of her. After recovering from the shock brought by Lin Jai, she immediately spoke up. But halfway through her words, Lin Jai's cold voice suddenly sounded in her ears. Are you her? Liang Huiling was rendered speechless by Lin Jai's words. Aunt Liang, what I want is for Liang Mumu and that unknown person to apologize. As Lin Jai spoke, her gaze turned to Liang Mumu and Shenbalian. There's a limit to my patience. I'll say it one last time. As those words left her mouth, Lin Jai's hands clenched into fists, and with the cracking of her bones, she squeezed another word out of her mouth, Dao. Before Lin Jai could finish her words, Shenbalian had already shrieked, I'll apologize. Don't hit me. As she spoke, Shenbalian turned to Shiryao and said, I'm sorry. Lin Jai didn't think much of Shenbalian at all. Seeing that the latter had apologized, she cursed idiot in her heart before turning her gaze to Liang Mumu and said, It's your turn now. Liang Mumu pursed her lips, not saying a word. Lin Jai frowned. Her exquisite face was filled with anger, as if her patience had run out. However, before she could flare up, Liang Mumu had already turned to look at Shiryao. She glared at Shiryao with hatred in her heart, but at the same time, she was also terrified of Lin Jai. It took a lot of effort for her to force herself to say two words, I'm sorry. Who are you apologizing to? Lin Jai frowned in dissatisfaction. Me. My grandfather. My mother. My aunt. My brother. Could it be Sister Zhang? Liang Mumu's eyes reddened from Lin Jai's rebuke. She clenched her fists tightly as she stared at Shiryao silently for a moment before saying, Yao, I'm sorry. Is Yao something you can call? Lin Jai was still dissatisfied with Liang Mumu's apology, so she picked on her words once more. Liang Mumu's complexion turned even more awful. Under the gazes of so many people, she couldn't hold back her tears any longer, and tears welled up in her eyes. Her lips quivered, and it was only when the tears blurred her vision and she couldn't see Shiryao anymore did she finally move her lips and say, Miss Shi, I'm sorry. Satisfied, Lin Jai turned her gaze away from Liang Mumu and Shenbalian and sat back down on her chair. It was only after she sat down that she realized that Shiryao was staring at her with widened eyes. Chapter 401. Sis Jai, I'm not a well-educated person, so please don't lie to me. Shiryao looked at Lin Jai's beautiful and slender hands before turning to look at the chair Lin Jai was sitting on, and in disbelief, she asked, Is that the case? Isn't that the case? Lin Jai replied with a question of her own, but at the same time, she also felt that her excuse wasn't as reasonable as it seemed. That doesn't seem to be the case. However, Yao, I'm not usually like this. It's just that my period is coming. Speaking up to this point, Lin Jai suddenly felt that her excuse couldn't have been better. Yao, you should know that. You'll feel a little irritable at times like this. Women are always like this for a few days every month. A glint of agreement flashed across the depths of Shiryao's eyes as she said, Me too. Every time it happens, I'll feel inexplicably unhappy. Usually, as long as I eat something, I'll feel blissful. But during those few days, no matter how much I eat, I'll still feel a heavy weight in my heart, making me feel really uncomfortable. Lin Jai quickly went along with the topic and asked, Yao, which days have you been feeling unwell? Seated by the side, Lin Jai had overheard the conversation between the two ladies. Were all girls' conversations like this? Didn't they say that they were going to talk about Lin Jai's rudeness? Why did it suddenly turn into her period? Also, Lin Jai actually asked Soft Bun when she felt uncomfortable. Is she asking when Shiryao's period is? It's best if I don't listen to this kind of private conversation between girls, alright? With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej shifted his gaze away with a reddened face to look out the window. However, his body was clearly inching closer to Shi Yao. Me? Shi Yao tilted her head to the side and pondered for a moment. It should be soon. It's usually on the 28th or 29th of the month. It's just a few days away, then, you'll have to keep warm for the next few days. Try not to blow on the air conditioner too much. If you catch a cold, you'll get a stomachache. Also, remember to drink some brown sugar water when you feel uncomfortable in the next few days. It's best if you don't eat cold and spicy food. It'll make you feel better. Oh, and don't overwork yourself. Listening to Lin Jiej's gentle reminder, Lin Jiej's eyebrows knitted together. There were actually so many rules and regulations when a girl was feeling unwell. Lin Jiej pondered for a moment before he picked up his phone, tapped open his notebook, and began typing. After memorizing everything that Lin Jiej had said, he turned his attention back to the conversation between the two ladies. The topic had changed from menstruation to television dramas. Women sure are fickle. Lin Jiej couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Chapter 402. Lin Jiej had always been a man of her word. A second after she made up her mind, she grabbed her bag, stood up, and said, "Take good care of Yao Yao," to Lin Jiej before leaving in a hurry. Lin Jiej drank a little, so she didn't drive to the company herself. Instead, she called for her chauffeur to wait for her at the entrance of Beijing World Hotel. It was already close to 9 at night, but the traffic was still a little congested in this bustling area. In order to pass the time, Lin Jiej sat in the back seat and fiddled with her phone. Not too long later, a notification suddenly popped up on her phone, indicating that it was low on battery. She passed her phone to the chauffeur to charge it, and with nothing to do, she wound down the car window. There were many pedestrians by the roadside, and there were quite a few couples strolling intimately together. When passing by the overhead bridge, she could also see some people setting up stalls, selling all kinds of accessories, and smoking barbecue. Lin Jiej stared at the scenery outside the car window for a long while before she suddenly realized that it had been a very, very long time since she last walked through such a down-to-earth night market. The traffic finally improved a little, and the car was no longer stationary. However, it was still moving at a very slow pace. After walking for a very long time, Lin Jiej suddenly saw a young man dressed in a white shirt riding by the roadside on a bicycle. The night breeze was a little strong, causing his white shirt to flutter about. Lin Jiej stared at the figure for a very long time, and the more she looked at it, the more familiar she found it. All of a sudden, she exclaimed in shock, "Stop the car." The chauffeur slammed on the brakes. "Young miss," before the chauffeur could finish his words, Lin Jiej had already pushed open the car door, jumped down, and chased after the young man on the bicycle. She was wearing high heels, so it wasn't convenient for her to run. The road was a little uneven, and in a moment of carelessness, she twisted her ankle. It wasn't serious, but it still hurt a little. She hurriedly took off her shoes, lifted her elegant dress, and chased after the young man. No matter how fast Lin Jiej ran, she couldn't outrun the bicycle. It was fortunate that there was a crossroad ahead, and the bicycle came to a stop at a red light. Panting heavily, Lin Jiej ran up to the bicycle, and without even daring to catch her breath, she abruptly reached out and grabbed the white-shirted young man sitting on the bicycle. Qing Ting. The boy in white turned around in astonishment. His eyes met Lin Jiej's, and it took a long while before he finally spoke up. "Is there anything I can help you with?" Lin Jiej didn't say a word. Instead, she stared fixedly at the man before her. The red light ahead turned green, and the young man who was in a hurry to leave saw Lin Jiej tugging at his clothes, so he spoke up once more. "Young mistress, I'm sorry, may I ask?" This time, before he could finish his words, Lin Jie had already recovered from her daze. She quickly let go of the man's clothes and apologized. "I'm sorry, I mistook you for someone else." "It's okay." The boy replied politely and left on his bicycle. Soon, his figure disappeared into the crowd. But Lin Jie was still standing on the spot. Cars hurried to and fro around her, but Lin Jie maintained her previous posture, not moving in the slightest. Yes, she had mistaken him for someone else. How could it be him? That person just now was just a little bit similar to the person in her memory. He was the biggest liar in the world. He promised to accompany her for a lifetime, but he left her. Chapter 403. Young Miss. Miss Jie. The chauffeur walked up to Lin Jie and greeted her respectfully a few times before Lin Jie snapped out of her daze. She glanced at the chauffeur silently. The chauffeur picked up a pair of shoes and placed them before Lin Jie. "Miss Jie, here are your shoes." Lin Jie still didn't say a word. Instead, she stepped into the shoes and walked over to the car. The chauffeur quickly followed behind her and opened the car door for her. Lin Jie bent down and got into the car. By the time the chauffeur got into the car, Lin Jie had already reverted back to the arrogant and domineering young miss of the Lin family. It was as if the helpless and dazed look she had felt earlier was just a figment of her imagination. After passing the intersection ahead, the road suddenly cleared up. Soon, the car arrived at the entrance of the Lin family enterprise. Upon seeing the car, the security guard immediately ran over and opened the door for her. Lin Jie told the chauffeur, "You can return to the hotel first, before getting out of the car." Ignoring the security guard's greeting, she walked straight into the building. Grandpa Lin's birthday banquet started early, but it didn't end early either. After sending off the guests one after another, the banquet hall was empty except for a few relatives of the Lin family. Lin Jie, who had been gone for more than 2 hours, still hadn't returned. While Shi Yao was heading to the washroom, she called Lin Jie for the 3rd time. Just when she thought that the call would be the same as before and no one would pick up, it was picked up. "Yao Yao." Hearing Lin Jie's voice, Shi Yao's heart finally calmed down. "Sis Jie, Grandpa Lin's birthday banquet is almost over. Are you still coming over?" "Oh, I nearly forgot." "Yao Yao, I'm really sorry, but something came up at the last minute, so I won't be able to make it. I'll send the chocolates to your school tomorrow if I'm free. If not, I'll get my secretary to send them over." Lin Jie's voice was as gentle as ever. But for some reason, Shi Yao felt that something was amiss. She frowned and replied, "It's fine, Sis Jie." A moment later, she couldn't help but ask worriedly, "Sis Jie, are you all right?" "I'm fine. Of course I'm fine. What could possibly happen to me? I'm busy earning money." Lin Jie chuckled softly on the phone. So she had been thinking too much. "All right then. Sis Jie, I won't disturb you any longer. You should get back to what you were doing." "Okay, Yao Yao my little darling." "Mwah, goodbye." Shi Yao replied with a soft goodbye before hanging up the call. She put away her phone, tidied herself up, and walked out of the bathroom. She stood in front of the basin and had just turned on the tap when the bathroom door that she had just closed opened again. Hearing the commotion, Shi Yao instinctively raised her head to look at the entrance of the washroom through the mirror. It was Liang Mumu. Her complexion didn't look good. Perhaps because she had been crying, the meticulous makeup on her face had been ruined. The mascara around her eyes was dyed black. She saw her too, looked at her for a moment, and then, as if she were a stranger, walked up to her and turned on the faucet next to hers. Shi Yao also felt that there was nothing much for her to say to Liang Mumu, so she calmly washed her hands before turning around to leave. But barely after taking a few steps, Liang Mumu suddenly called out to her, "Shi Yao." Chapter 404. But barely after she took a few steps, Liang Mumu suddenly called out to her, "Shi Yao." Why did she suddenly call out to me? Shi Yao was perplexed, but her footsteps showed no signs of slowing down at all. "Shi Yao." Liang Mumu spoke up once more, but this time, her voice was much higher than before. "Don't misunderstand. I didn't mean anything by calling out to you." Following Liang Mumu's words, Shi Yao could hear the sound of her high heels hurriedly stepping on the ground. Shi Yao knew that Liang Mumu had caught up to her. A slight frown appeared on her forehead as she hastened her footsteps. Does she think that I'm someone she can catch up to just because I want to? Besides, I don't want to hear it even if I want to. Shi Yao, why are you running? Or are you afraid that I'll hit you? Are you afraid that I'll hit you? Liang Mumu asked. In the past, she didn't think that there was anything wrong with Liang Mumu's head. But now, she realized that her intelligence was really lacking. Could it be that Liang Mumu had really treated her as a friend in the past, and as a result, she thought that she was doing the right thing no matter what she did? With this thought in mind, Shi Yao hastened her footsteps even more. "Shi Yao, I swear that I won't hit you. Are you done yet? Do you really think that I'm afraid that I'll hit you?" Shi Yao didn't turn around, and her footsteps didn't stop either. Instead, she replied, "I'm afraid that I'll hit you." It was hard to tell whether Liang Mumu was angered by Shi Yao's words or that she really thought that she wouldn't be able to catch up to her anymore, but she went straight to the point. "Shi Yao, the reason why I called out to you is to tell you a secret, and that secret is..." As the latter secret slipped out of her mouth, Shi Yao replied with a hint of mockery in her voice, "Liang Mumu, where do you get the confidence that I'll believe you?" As she spoke, Shi Yao's footsteps came to a halt as she turned around to look at Liang Mumu. Compared to the ridiculousness she had felt earlier, her expression was much more solemn. "Liang Mumu, I won't believe you even if there are 10 or 100 secrets between us, let alone a single one. Don't think that I don't know that the secret you mentioned earlier is just to sow discord between us. Do you really think that I'm a fool who only knows how to eat?" Shi Yao paused for a moment before continuing, "Perhaps, if not for today's matter, I might still have some feelings for you. But right now, you're nothing more than a fleeting cloud to me. I don't believe you. It's not that you're trying to harm me. It's just that I'm unable to forgive you for what you did during Grandpa Lin's birthday banquet. Grandpa Lin treated me well, but he treated you well as well. You're clearly an ungrateful, cold-blooded, and heartless person." Having said all that she needed to say, Shi Yao didn't show any signs of staying any longer. She simply turned around and left. Perhaps Liang Mumu still had something to say to her, but she really wasn't interested in listening to it anymore. At the same time, on the first floor of the Beijing World Hotel, Lin Jiej was personally sending Uncle Gu off. "Uncle Gu, thank you so much for today. There's no need for you to stand on ceremony with me. Back then, you were the one who helped me obtain a painting that caught my eye. I already owe you a favor, and I promised you that if you ever need my help in the future, I'll do my best to help you." At this point, Uncle Gus suddenly burst into laughter. "It's just that I didn't think that you would ask me for help in the end just to put in a few words for Miss Shi. You've really made a huge loss this time." Chapter 405. Not to mention, he was helping Soft Bun this time around. Not only did he not feel like he was making a loss, he even felt like he had profited greatly. What was that saying again? Even 1,000 gold coins couldn't buy Soft Bun's happiness. As long as he could make Soft Bun happy, he was willing to spend even 10,000 gold coins. "This is the first time I've seen you so concerned about a girl. Back then, when you were young, you would talk to all the boys around you, but no matter how hard we tried to coax you, you wouldn't open your mouth to speak to a girl. Back then, your father and I were worried that there might be something wrong with you, that you preferred boys over girls. Your grandmother was still alive back then, and she would hug you and show you the photos of those female celebrities. Lin Jiej was rendered speechless. So, it turned out that his childhood had been so tragic. Alright, it's getting late, so let's not talk about this anymore. I hope that the next time I see you, I'll hear about your marriage with Miss Shi. I like those words. Lin Jiej's speechless frown immediately smoothed out. Uncle Gu, I'll be counting on your blessings. After saying those words, he even opened the car door for Uncle Gu. After Uncle Gu got into the car and left, he returned to the hotel. Lin Jiej was intending to head straight to the second floor to look for Shi Yao, but just as he was about to reach the elevator, he inadvertently saw a familiar figure at the entrance of the first-floor bathroom. It was Liang Jusi. With a cigarette in his hand, he was chatting with a beautiful young lady. Both of them were holding on to their phones, and it seemed like they were exchanging phone numbers. Heh, you're still in the mood to flirt. Lin Jiej's footsteps suddenly came to a halt. He turned around and began walking toward Liang Jusi. Just as Liang Jusi was about to grab the phone number, he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He instinctively turned around, only to see Lin Jiej walking toward him with a cold expression on his face. Liang Jusi's hand trembled in fright, and his phone fell to the ground. Without any hesitation, he bent down to grab his phone, and without even checking to see if it was damaged, he immediately ran away. Lin Jiej also hastened his footsteps. Liang Jusi pushed open a door and dived in, only to realize that it was a staircase. He desperately tried to block the door, but he was no match for Lin Jiej's strength. Before the door could be pushed open, he had already begun running up the stairs. In the end, he barely made it 2 floors before Lin Jiej knocked him out. Big bro, I was wrong. With nowhere to run, Liang Jusi immediately began to beg for mercy. Big bro, you can hit me, but can you not hit my face? I rely on my face to make a living. Whoa! I already told you not to hit my face, so why did you have to hit my face instead? You're robbing me of my chance to be a handsome man. Brother, I really don't know what Moo has done. Ouch. Liang Moo. Hero, please show some mercy, I'll give you all the erotic comics I've collected. It's fine if you don't want them, but why are you hitting me harder? It hurts, it really hurts. I swear that I'll discipline Liang Moo harshly when I get home. No, I'll have my parents take away her financial freedom. Is that not enough? Then I'll trick my parents into sending her to my hometown. That should be fine, right? If she goes back to her hometown, she won't be able to do it anymore. Chapter 406. If that's still not enough, I'll give that little fiancé of yours a huge present. Lin Jiej was just about to stop when he heard that Liang Moo would be sent back to her hometown, but upon hearing the latter half of Liang Jusi's words, he couldn't help but raise his fist once more. Is this how you give yourself away? With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej said, I want potato chips. No problem. Putting potato chips aside, I'll have yogurt, pudding, jelly, Oreos, white rabbit creamy candy, QQ candy, beef jerky. I have everything you need. And so, Liang Jusi finally escapes death. After Grandpa Lin's birthday celebration, Shi Yao placed all of her attention on her final exams. It was only when the final exams were over that Shi Yao finally logged into the game. Coincidentally, before she could even head to the Sexy and Frisky group to ask who was playing, she saw 111,111, who was online, and he even invited her to join his team. Shi Yao accepted the invitation. After entering the room, before she could say a word, Mr. Number's voice sounded in her earpiece, You're free. Yao knew that he was referring to the end of her final exams. A week before the final exams, she had told him that she would be taking a break from the game for the time being in order to revise for the time being. I'm free. Yao paused for a moment before continuing. Aren't you taking your final exams for the next 2 days just like me? Are you not free yet? Me? Mr. Numbers asked doubtfully. He started the game, and after entering the game spawn island, he continued, it's not the exam that freed me but me, playing games every day and still being able to study well. Who are you trying to fool? With such a thought in mind, Yao asked, you must have written some nonsense to free yourself from the exam, right? You must be joking. Mr. Numbers chuckled softly before replying haughtily, I'm the correct answer. The correct answer. I'm the teacher who sets the questions. Yao grabbed a piece of beef jerky and stuffed it into her mouth. You're really fat. It's a pity that it's only limited to the youth in your mouth. 111111. I'm really not lying to you. I'm the answer. If I'm different from the answer, then the answer must be wrong. In order to prevent Mr. Numbers from boasting too much, Yao chose to remain silent. 111111 said as he leaped out of the plane with Yao and flew toward Jorgopal. I'm really not exaggerating, but back in high school, I had to keep my eyes closed the entire time. As soon as I opened my eyes, the teacher would ponder for 3 seconds before saying that he had misspoken. Yes, you're not exaggerating. You're just boasting rhythmically, just that. I wonder if Mr. Numbers would catch my chin when he's bragging. If he were to accidentally blow his chin off, wouldn't it shatter the floor? Seeing that her silence wasn't enough to stop less than 111,111 from bragging, Yao could only change the topic and say, oh right, there's something that I almost forgot. Do you still remember the friend you introduced to me when I was going to the antique market? As Yao said those words, she and Mr. Numbers landed on the ground. Mr. Numbers casually shattered a pane of glass, and with a walla sound, he entered the room. Then, his voice sounded in Yao's ears, I remember. Before Yao could say anything, Mr. Numbers had already asked, what's wrong? Chapter 407. Less than 111,111. If you don't believe me, why are you still saying it? Yao, what should I do? I really want to sew Mr. Numbers' venomous mouth shut. 111,111, but I like to hear things that people don't believe. Yao, so, I was the one who misunderstood Mr. Numbers, and he wasn't speaking ill of me. Less than 111,111, hurry up and tell me. Mr. Numbers seemed to be quite curious about it. It seemed like she had really misunderstood him. Only then did Yao speak up. I bought an inkstone from the shop you recommended. Do you know how much it cost? On the other end of the game, Lin Jiej heard Yao's question and instinctively wanted to reply, 200. But before he could say anything, he heard Yao's voice once more, you'll never guess it. What kind of joke is this? I'm the one who set the price for the inkstone, how could I not know? However, Lin Jiej quickly swallowed the 200 that was on the verge of blurting out, 50,000. Yao, as expected of a tycoon. 10,000 right off the bat. Lin Jiej silently sang in his heart, I'll act as if I don't see anything when I'm supposed to play along with you. Then, he asked, then. 5,000. Yao, that's my living expenses for a semester. How should I act in order to play along with you? Lin Jiej silently sang in his heart once more. She was the one who asked him to guess, so why did he end up getting choked by her? Women sure are willful. But then again, I'm willing to play along with her. Lin Jiej continued guessing, 3,000. 1,800. 1,000. 800. Forget it, I knew you wouldn't be able to guess it. As if presenting a treasure, Yao continued, actually, I only spent 200 renminbi on it. Oh, that price sure is unbelievable. Even though Lin Jie's words were filled with excitement, he maintained a calm expression on his face as he sniped down a person. Shi Yao, you can't believe it. Then what happens next will shock you to death. Do you know how much that 200 yuan inkstone is actually worth? I know, but it's because I love you that I chose to perform this kind of help. After silently singing this line, Lin Jie asked, how much? He thought that Shi Yao would ask him to make a guess like before, but who could have thought that the young lady would excitedly tell him the price right away, 200,000. This isn't going according to the script, Lin Jie pondered for a moment before replying, impressive. It was hard to tell whether it was due to Zhu An's compliment, but Shi Yao's next words sounded very gleeful and boastful, isn't that so? I also think I'm amazing. He bought an inkstone worth 200,000 yuan with 200 yuan. Who can do it? I suspect that I'm a cheat. Life with cheats is just so valiant. As long as you're happy. You're good looking, so whatever you say is right. In any case, as someone who knows the truth, I'll remain silent and not tell you that your cheat is Lin Jie. Lin Jie didn't interrupt her. Sigh, there's nothing I can do about it. I was born with divine luck, and I can't even block it. Aren't you envious? Following behind Lin Jie, Shi Yao staggered toward the safe zone with a gun in her hand as she continued to speak proudly. However, before she could finish her words, a notification suddenly popped up on her phone. While controlling the direction, she accidentally tapped on it, and she saw a video. Chapter 408. Shi Yao was very familiar with the person in the video, so she couldn't help but take a look. It was only after she finished watching the video that she realized that the person who sent her the message was someone she didn't want to have anything to do with at the moment. Why would Liang Mumu send her this video? To prove that the secret she told me on Grandpa Lin's birthday was real. But did Liang Mumu forget something as well? Before she could verify it with her own eyes, she wouldn't believe anything Liang Mumu said. While Shi Yao was deep in thought, the phone in her hand suddenly vibrated. Snapping out of her daze, she realized that it was a WeChat notification. It was a message from less than 111,111, did you disconnect? Shi Yao hurriedly replied, I received a message, so I accidentally switched out of the game. Mr. Numbers didn't reply to her, and she didn't reply to him either. Instead, she returned to the game. Interrupted by Liang Mumu's video, Shi Yao didn't continue boasting to Mr. Numbers. When she switched out of the game earlier, the blue zone had arrived, and she had lost more than half of her health bar. Her situation was still considered normal, but Mr. Numbers was the one who was acting strangely. He could clearly outrun the blue zone, but he chose to stay by her side instead. While Shi Yao healed herself, she couldn't help but ask, why didn't you outrun the blue zone either? Hearing Shi Yao's voice, Lin Jie's eyebrows shot up. Was there even a need to ask? Of course it was to eat the poison zone together with her, however, Lin Jie didn't say a word. Instead, his fingers smoothly maneuvered the screen of his phone, and with a leap, he entered the safe zone. He crawled into the bushes and took out a hemostatic pack to replenish his health before replying to Shi Yao, it's been a long time since I've eaten poison. I missed the taste of it. Shi Yao, who was drinking a mouthful of yogurt, nearly spurted it out when she heard less than 111,111's reply. This reply. I'll give him 88 points and give him the rest in the form of 666 points. I really can't give him any more, not even a single point, because I'm afraid that he'll get too arrogant. With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao replied, are you the rumored drug addict young man? What about you? After healing himself, Mr. Numbers stood up from the bushes and leaped onto a huge boulder. Hugging his 98k, he glanced around and said, are you a drug addict young lady? Beauty. Hearing those words, Yao's heart leaped in joy. She had completely forgotten that she was mocking Mr. Numbers earlier on. That's right, I'm an esports addict beauty, and you're an esports addict beauty. Handsome young man, I've long heard that your acting skills are heaven-defying. It's a pleasure to meet you. 111111, you're too kind. However, beautiful girl, I've heard that you're as beautiful as a fairy since a long time ago. Mr. Numbers sure knows how to talk. After swallowing the jelly, Yao replied gleefully, you're overpraising me, handsome young man. You might not know this, but I've always been perplexed by the word handsome that my teacher taught me. It was only when I met you that I finally understood. You're handsome. 111,111, I'm ashamed, beautiful girl. If you're on the street and someone praises you for being good-looking, don't ever say that I'm not good-looking, because they'll beat you up and call you a hypocrite. Don't you know that your existence has saved the beauty market? Yao was so overwhelmed by the compliments that she couldn't help but blurt out, say, you're so handsome that even the gods would be enraged by you, and I'm so beautiful that even the heavens would be enraged by me. We sure are a match made in heaven. A match made in heaven. Yao blurted out those words without even thinking through them. It was only then that she realized that she seemed to have used the wrong word. Chapter 409. Just as Yao was about to correct his mistake, less than 111,111's voice sounded in her earpiece, that's right. You're in charge of being pretty, and I'm in charge of being handsome. You're in charge of picking up herbs, and I'm in charge of killing. This isn't just a match made in heaven, it's more like a match made in heaven, a match made in heaven, a match made in heaven, aw. A match made in heaven, a match made in heaven, a match made in heaven. This Mr. Numbers is even more casual than me. All of a sudden, the burden on Yao's heart was lifted, and she swallowed back the words she was about to correct him. Yao thought that this would be the end of his boasting, but who could have thought that less than 111,111 would suddenly speak up once more, since you and I are a match made in heaven, why don't we establish a lover's relationship in the intimate relationship game? A lover's relationship? You must be joking with me, right? Yao's hands trembled, and she nearly dropped her yogurt. She secretly rejoiced that her yogurt wasn't ruined before she replied hesitantly, that. What did you say? Let's establish a relationship, a lover's relationship. As Mr. Numbers spoke, Yao saw him raise his gun slightly, and his sentence that she was already used to appeared on her screen. Less than 111,111 eliminated to give me a recommendation vote, with 98k. Following which, a new page popped up on her phone screen, Winner's Chicken Dinner. Aw. Chicken dinner just like that. I haven't even done anything yet. Just as Yao was about to compliment Mr. Numbers on his awesomeness, Mr. Numbers spoke up once more. It's at the bottom left corner, in the Friends section. Tap on it, and you'll see that I've already submitted the request. Go and accept it. This matter isn't over yet. Yao blinked her eyes in confusion. About that, may I ask why you suddenly want to establish a lovers? Yao was a little embarrassed to say the word. Of course, an intimate relationship. There's no particular reason. Didn't you say that we're a match made in heaven, a match made in heaven, a match made in heaven? This is just business flattery. You can't take it seriously, can you? Yao was just about to say, aren't you joking? But on the other end of the phone, Mr. Numbers seemed to have guessed what she was going to say next, and he spoke up once more. I meant what I said earlier. Could it be that you were lying when you praised me? The words that Yao was about to say got stuck in her throat, and she couldn't bring herself to say them anymore. No, how could that be? My words of praise couldn't be any truer than that. It's even truer than milk tea. I believe you. Mr. Numbers' tone was filled with trust as he said, so, you should go ahead and agree to it. If she didn't agree, wouldn't that mean that all her praises were fake? It was clearly just a simple business compliment. How did she end up marrying herself off in the game as she bragged about it? Xiao tapped on the Intimate Relationship tab, and sure enough, less than 111,111 had requested an intimate relationship with him. It's just a game, so it shouldn't be a big deal for us to become lovers. Xiao gritted her teeth as she clicked accept. Returning to the main hall, Xiao said, I agree to it. Just like that, my first in-game marriage is given away. Chapter 4:10. If there's anything I didn't do well enough, I hope that you can forgive me. Are you trying to be courteous? Xiao pondered for a moment before replying politely, same here. If there's anything I didn't do well enough, I hope that you can forgive me as well. Mr. Numbers only replied with a single word before falling silent. He tapped on the keyboard and started the game. While waiting for the game to start, Xiao munched on her apple as she stared at the wall in front of her. Is there something wrong with my senses? Why do I feel like I've been tricked into a trap? And this trap is so huge that I'm still helping the other party earn money even though I'm being sold. By the time the game ended, it was already 11 at night. Xie Shangzhou and Lu Benlai hadn't returned to the dormitory yet. Lin Jiej bade Xiao good night in the game and waited for her to log off before putting down his phone and heading to the bathroom. Halfway through his shower, Lin Jiej suddenly heard a commotion outside through the bathroom door. He knew that Xia Shangzhou and Lu Benlai had returned. After his shower, as soon as Lin Jiej opened the bathroom door, Xia Shangzhou and Lu Benlai immediately spoke up. Xia Shangzhou, boss, do you know how pitiful I am? Lu Benlai, boss, little Lai Lai is also pitiful. Do you know that? I don't. Lin Jiej replied nonchalantly as he dried his hair with a towel. After which, he added. I don't want to know either, Xia Shangzhou, woo, this is so heart-wrenching. Boss, you really don't love me anymore. Lu Benlai, it's all your fault, grandson. It's definitely your fault that boss doesn't care about me anymore. Xia Shangzhou, bullshit, you grandson. You're the one who implicated me. Lu Benlai, I'm so handsome, how could I possibly implicate you? Lin Jiej calmly blew on his hair while the two of them were bickering with one another. When he finally put down the hairdryer, he glanced at the two people sitting beside him, and from their expressions, it seemed like they were really depressed. Forget it, since it's my and Soft Bun's wedding today, I'll just show them some concern. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej pulled over a chair and sat down. Come, let me hear how pitiful you are. Xia Shangzhou, I'll go first. Lu Benlai, I'll go first. I'm your grandfather, so don't you know how to respect your elders? Xia Shangzhou replied, then there's another phrase, loving the young. Lu Benlai, all right then. Since my grandson has said so, I'll give it to you then. Oblivious to the fact that he had fallen into a trap, Xia Shangzhou turned to Lin Jiej and said without any hesitation, Boss, aren't we going to be in year for this holiday? Wouldn't that be an internship? So, I started to submit my resume. Well, there's one thing I didn't tell you. I invested in your family's company. I didn't tell you because I was afraid that you'd find out and directly put me in the company. I'm a person with excellent character. I won't think of taking the back door. I still want to see my own strength. You're overthinking things. Other than Soft Bun, I won't open a back door for anyone else. Lin Jiej mercilessly pierced through Xia Shangzhou's delusions. Xia Shangzhou clutched his chest and whimpered, Boss, there's always love. Can't you give me some face? Lin Jiej's lips twitched, but he didn't say a word. Chapter 4:11. I put on a suit and tie, and for the first time in my life, I called for a private car and headed to my boss's company. I gave it my all and applied for the job, and yesterday, I finally received a call that I was approved. Do you know how happy I was? At that moment, I felt as if I had the entire world in my hands. But today, when I went to my boss's company to report in, I realized that what awaited me wasn't heaven but hell. I was actually assigned to my boss's big sister, and when I went to look for her with my application, she was in the middle of reprimanding someone. A second after I knocked on the door, she crushed a glass cup with her bare hands. Isn't that even scarier? What's even scarier is that my big sister must have done this to me because I accidentally saw her naked back then. She made me run around the city all day to buy food for her, and when I did, she wouldn't even eat it. I thought about it for a moment, and as a top student of G University, how could I allow myself to be trampled on by my big sister like that? So, I rose up and told my big sister that I'm quitting my job. The next second, my big sister raised her fist at me, saying something like, "Do you think that my department is your back door, that you can come and go as you please?" And then? Liu Benlai asked curiously. And then? The confident look that Xie Shangzhou had on when he was recounting his rise vanished in an instant, replaced by a withered expression reminiscent of a shriveled eggplant. And then, I chickened out. I told my big sister that I was wrong and that I wouldn't leave anymore. "I'm willing to do anything for you. Putting aside the 5 years of my contract, I'm even willing to work for you for 10 years. After that, I was forced to sell my body to my boss's company for 10 years. 10 years. 10 years. Those were the best 10 years of my life." Ignoring Xie Shangzhou's wails, Lin Jiej turned to the gloating Liu Benlai and asked, "What about you?" Hearing Lin Jiej's question, Liu Benlai's face immediately turned sullen. "I'm much worse off than old Xia. Didn't I just receive my wife's Alipay some time ago? I thought that I would finally be able to get my wife's phone number. But this afternoon, I received a call from a public phone. My wife asked me to meet her in the woods at school. I dressed up and went over, but a second before I arrived, my wife threw the money in my face. Look, the red mark on my face is from the money. My wife even told me that she doesn't know how petty I am. I said, "What do I have to do for you to give me your phone number?" She told me not to do anything. She told me to stay as far away from her as the sun is. My plan has failed just like that. I'll have to come up with a new plan, boss. Don't you think that I'm pitiful? Hearing Liu Benlai's words, Xie Shangzhou also turned to Lin Jiej and asked, "Me too. Am I even more pitiful than little Lai Lai?" Lin Jiej shot a glance at the two men before him before leisurely leaning back on his chair. "Since the two of you are so pitiful, why don't I tell you a story about your recovery to cheer you up a little?" "Xie Shangzhou, boss really does love me." "Liu Benlai, I'm all ears." Before Lin Jiej could say anything, a smile had already crept onto his lips. "Today is my wedding day with Yao Yao." Chapter 412. Before Lin Jiej could say anything, a smile had already crept onto his lips. "Today is my wedding day with Yao Yao." As he spoke, Lin Jiej took out his phone and logged into the game. He tapped into the intimate relationship icon and showed it to Xie Shangzhou and Liu Benlai, saying, "Here, the proof." Xie Shangzhou could vaguely hear the sound of a knife stabbing into his chest. "Boss, are you sure you're treating us and not kicking us while we're down?" Liu Benlai could clearly hear his heart shattering into pieces. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have listened. I should have covered my ears and refused to listen." It took a long while before Liu Benlai finally managed to compose his shattered heart. With a sliver of hope in his heart, he asked, "Boss, are you telling us this so that you can give us wedding candies so that you can treat us?" Hearing Liu Benlai's words, Xie Shangzhou also came to his senses and asked, "Boss, are you intending to bring little Lai Lai and me to Golden Resplendence to celebrate so that little Lai Lai and I can forget about our troubles?" You're imagining things a little too much. Lin Jiej put away his phone and lazily leaned back on his chair. My words earlier were meant to be a form of treatment for you. Xie Shangzhou clutched his chest and asked, Boss, your treatment is a form of dog abuse. Lu Benlai rubbed his chest and replied, other people's treatment is a form of rebirth, but your treatment is a form of corpse whipping. Dog abuse. Corpse whipping. Lin Jiej frowned. Do you think that my words earlier aren't enough to treat you? He felt that it was indeed a form of treatment. It was as if the gloom of his life had been swept away, and his future had been filled with light. Lin Jiej pondered for a moment before replying, all right then. Since that's the case, I'll continue treating you then. When we were playing today, Yao Yao praised me. She said that I'm an esports addict. Xie Shangzhou and Lu Benlai glanced at one another before turning their gazes to Lin Jiej. Boss, are you sure that's a compliment? Lin Jiej was so immersed in the nickname Shi Yao had given him that he didn't pay any attention to the other two's expressions. A hint of pride surfaced on his face as he asked, isn't this nickname particularly pleasing to the ears? Pretty boy who's addicted to video games. I think he's super handsome, don't you think so? Let me tell you guys, Yao Yao not only praised me like this, she also said that my acting value is out of this world. She also said that she didn't know the meaning of handsome until she met me, then she understood the true meaning of handsome. After saying those words, Lin Jiej raised his eyebrows. How is it? Do you feel like you're cured now? Xie Shangzhou shook his head. What do you mean by cured? I don't know. All I know is that I was slaughtered like a dog. Lu Benlai nodded his head cooperatively. Similarly, I don't know what treatment means either. All I know is that not only was my corpse whipped, I was even raped. Since that's the case, I guess I'll have to resort to my final trump card then. Before Lin Jiej could say anything, a hint of embarrassment had already surfaced on his face. Yao Yao said that my handsomeness is infuriating to the gods whereas her beauty is infuriating to the heavens. We're a match made in heaven. Chapter 413. Before Lin Jiej could finish his words, Lu Benlai abruptly stood up, clutched his stomach, and rushed to the toilet. Boss, my stomach hurts, damn it, this person is really shameless to steal my lines. Xie Shangzhou cursed Lu Benlai from inside out before standing up as well. Boss, it suddenly occurred to me that Lin Yimu has something to tell me, and it's something very important. I have to go and take a look. The door to the toilet and dormitory room were slammed shut one after another. Lin Jiej was the only one left in room 501. Sitting on the chair, he furrowed his brows. Then, in his heart, he silently completed the sentence that he had just been interrupted. It's destined, it's a blessing from the heavens. Then, he stared at the ceiling for a while with the corner of his lips slightly raised. Then, he got up and prepared to sleep. After bidding Mr. Numbers good night in the game, Shirya put down her phone and went to take a bath. By the time she was done washing up and tidying up, it was already close to midnight. Perhaps it was due to her relaxed state after her exams, but she couldn't fall asleep that night. Lying on her bed, her thoughts ran wild for a while before she picked up her phone, tapped into the internet, and started watching Adonis Legends competition videos. Even though Shiryao had watched those videos many times, she still couldn't help but feel her blood racing every time she watched them. On the bullet screen, she saw someone saying, "The elusive god L posted on Weibo." So, she quickly exited the streaming website and tapped into Weibo. She didn't use Weibo often, so the number of followers she had was pitifully low. Of course, the number of times she posted on Weibo could be counted on one hand, but every single one of them was related to Legend. She only followed a single person, and that was Legend. She entered Legend's Weibo page and saw that he had indeed posted a Weibo post this afternoon. In truth, her Adonis didn't use Weibo much either. Even though he had over 10 million followers, he had less than 10 posts to date. Even this latest Weibo post was just an advertisement for an event. The content was boring. It was just an advertisement, and those who reposted it would receive Legend signature as a prize. Even though the content was boring, Xiao still earnestly read through Legend's Weibo post from start to finish without missing a single word. She even joined the army of reposts that numbered more than 100,000. After reposting, she pondered for a moment before replying, pulled down the chances of winning a prize. She felt that the probability of winning a prize was too low, so she reposted it a few more times before exiting Weibo. Returning to the streaming platform, Xiao finished watching half of the match before finally feeling a little sleepy, so she took off her earphones. Just as she was about to put down her phone, she saw a notification on WeChat. Tapping on it, she saw that it was a group advertisement sent by her classmates. Paying no heed to it, she subconsciously tried to exit WeChat, only to catch sight of Liang Mumu. She hesitated for a moment, but eventually, she still clicked on it and watched the video that Liang Mumu had sent to her earnestly from start to end. Just like that, the drowsiness that she had just felt vanished without a trace. At the same time, in room 501, Lin Jiej, who had been lying on his bed for a very long time, was just about to fall asleep when his phone suddenly rang. He opened his eyes and glanced at the screen of his phone. It was a reminder that he had set up earlier. On the 30th, you have a date with Soft Bun at Mountain Changming. The time is 11 a.m. Chapter 414. Today was the 29th, 0:01 a.m. In other words, there were only 35 hours left before he would be confessing to Soft Bun. To be more precise, it was 34 hours and 59 minutes. Wait, it was already 02 minutes on the 29th, so it would be 34 hours and 58 minutes. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej felt his heart beating faster and faster. Even his breathing had somehow gotten a little hurried. He had already made arrangements for his confession a few days ago, but he still couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Closing his eyes, he went through the entire process of his confession in his mind. After making sure that he hadn't missed anything, his heart finally calmed down. But a moment later, he couldn't help but turn around and think about his confession the next day. In the end, he still couldn't help but feel a little unconfident. Even though he had memorized most of the details, he still couldn't help but tap on the notebook on his phone to look at the rules and regulations he had recorded. Passion fruit, loquat, watermelon, pineapple, pomegranate, roasted duck, vanilla ice cream, and crab roe buns. These were Soft Bun's favorites, so he had specially instructed the open-air restaurant at the top of Mountain Changming to prepare them. He even told the driver that he would place the potato chips and milk tea in the car the next day. When Lin Jiej reached the end of the list, he couldn't help but frown. On the day of his grandfather's birthday, when Soft Bun was chatting with his older sister, she mentioned the days of the month when she felt uncomfortable. Soft Bun said that it was on the 28th of every month, which was these few days. His older sister told him to keep warm, drink brown sugar water, avoid cold and spicy food, and not overexert himself. Crap, I didn't take her menstrual period into consideration when I was preparing the confession. It looks like I have to make some changes to the details. However, he had personally made a trip to Mountain Changming to ensure that there were no problems with the details, but if he were to call them tomorrow morning, would they be reliable? While contemplating, Lin Jiej flipped around once more, and his gaze fell on Liu Benlai and Xie Shangzhou, who were lying on the bed. Compared to the staff, these two seemed to be more reliable. Lin Jiej pondered for a moment before clearing his throat and asking, "Are you guys free tomorrow?" Xie Shangzhou was the more honest one, so he swiftly replied, "It's the weekend tomorrow, so we're off." Sensing danger, Liu Benlai hesitated for half a minute before replying, "No, what's wrong?" Lin Jiej was very satisfied with the answer. Then, shall the two of you set off for Mountain Changming at 5 tomorrow morning? Lu Benlai, boss, I just remembered that I have an appointment with the professor tomorrow. Xie Shangzhou grew bolder when he saw that someone had rejected him in advance. Yeah, I remember now. I might have to work overtime this weekend. Lin Jiej didn't say a word as he stared intently at the duo. Lu Benlai and Xie Shangzhou grew more and more uneasy. In the end, Xie Shangzhou couldn't take it anymore and finally relented. Boss, I said it's possible. F***ck, this grandson of his stand was not firm, and he betrayed him just like that. Chapter 4:15. Xie Shangzhou, do you have amnesia? Lu Benlai, you traitor. You have no right to speak. Xie Shangzhou, you're the traitor. Your entire family is traitor. Lu Benlai, grandson, you sure are a fool. You even dragged yourself into your insults. Do you know that you belong to my family too? Faced with such a situation, a slight frown appeared on Lin Jiej's forehead as he coughed lightly. The dormitory room fell silent. Lu Benlai and Xie Shangzhou turned to Lin Jiej. Since he was already a coward, he might as well let his coward have some dignity. Thus, Lu Benlai spoke up, boss, is there any benefit in going to Mountain Changming? The heck, little Lai Lai, you really have no morals. Why are you talking about benefits when helping a friend? Just watch me. As Xie Shangzhou spoke, he turned to Lin Jiej and said, boss, don't worry. I'm not as shameless as little Lai Lai. I only want a 10-day tour to Golden Resplendence. Lu Benlai, as the old saying goes, the student surpasses the master. As expected of my grandson. You have truly reached the pinnacle of the path of shamelessness. This time, before Xie Shangzhou could retort, Lin Jiej had already spoken up. Who is Yao Yao? Is she Leng Nuan's roommate? Since she's Leng Nuan's roommate, does that mean that Yao Yao has Leng Nuan's phone number? If I successfully woo Yao Yao, does that mean that I have Yao Yao's phone number as well? Similarly, if Yao Yao has Yao Yao's phone number, does that mean that I have it too? Lu Benlai, Daddy, there's no need to say anything else. As long as you say the word, even if I have to climb the heavens and dive into the sea of flames, I'll do it. Ignoring Lu Benlai's words, Lin Jiej calmly looked at Xie Shangzhou and said, who am I? I am Lin Jiej, the successor of the Lin family enterprise. I'm about to graduate from university, and it won't be long before I take over the family business. By then, who will have the greatest say in the Lin family enterprise? Of course, it'll be me. In other words, I'll be able to promote whoever I want, and I'll be able to force their contract to expire. Of course, if I want someone to be trapped in the Lin family enterprise for the rest of their lives, Changming Mountain is a good place. I can't wait to rush there right now. Xie Shangzhou shuddered and spoke without hesitation, don't think that I'm in the dormitory now. My heart and soul are already at Mountain Changming. Leaning leisurely against the wall, Lin Jiej asked nonchalantly, so, does this mean that you've agreed to help me? Lu Benlai, I've never rejected you. Boss, I promised you before you even said anything. It was Shirlai who rejected me. Xie Shangzhou retorted, T, you were the one who rejected me first. I was just following the trend. Boss, don't listen to little Lilai's nonsense. My feelings for you are like Zhu Yingtai's love for Liang Shanbua, or Juliet's love for Romeo. My determination to help you is like Meng Jiangnu crying for the Great Wall. What the heck was this? Was this analogy saying that he was Zhu Yingtai, Juliet, or Meng Jiangnu? Let's not talk about whether he was willing to be Liang Shanbua and Romeo. If he was really Zhu Yingtai, Juliet, and Meng Jiangnu, then these three stories would definitely not be classic works, but works of horror. Chapter 4:16. Lin Jiej couldn't be bothered to argue with them, so he got straight to the point. Tomorrow morning, head to Mountain Changming and help me keep an eye on a few things. The first thing is to tell the open-air restaurant at the top of Changming Mountain to prepare a light dinner. Cancel all the spicy dishes and replace them with nutritious ones. Also, try to reduce the seafood as much as possible. Also, don't serve red wine, replace it with brown sugar water. Oh, and for dessert, cancel the vanilla ice cream and replace it with taro pudding. The second thing is that Yao Yao mustn't overexert herself tomorrow, so it's best that we don't climb to the top of the mountain. When you arrive at Mountain Changming tomorrow, book a sightseeing bus. After instructing the important matters, Lin Jiej pondered for a moment. He was just about to say that there was nothing else when he suddenly recalled the words "keep warm." They were going to have dinner at the top of the mountain tomorrow, and after dinner, he was going to bring Soft Bun to see the surprise he had prepared for her. After that, there would be the fireworks that he had specially arranged for her, and after that, it would be time for him to confess to her. Conservatively speaking, it would be around 9 p.m. by the time he was done with all of this. Since Soft Bun had accepted his confession, he couldn't possibly send her home right away. He still had to bring her to admire the night view of the mountain and admire the moon and stars. Perhaps, he could even accompany her for supper. After all, she was such a delicious person. If that was the case, it would probably be midnight by the time they descended the mountain. Even though it was summer and the nights weren't cold, they were still in the suburbs, not to mention, on top of a mountain. To be on the safe side, Lin Jiej changed his words into a reminder. Oh, also, get the staff to prepare a cape for me. Lin Jiej paused for a moment before adding, and a heat pack and a hot water bag as well. Who cares if I'll be able to use them or not, I'll just prepare them first. After confirming that he didn't miss anything out, Lin Jiej asked, have you all memorized everything? Lu Benlai, boss, don't worry. I've memorized every single word you said. For the sake of my future wife, I guarantee that I'll complete this mission perfectly. Xie Shangzhou, +1. As long as I think about how I can escape from my older sister's misery, putting aside memorizing everything, I'm willing to even give boss a kick. Lin Jiej shot a disdainful glance at Xie Shangzhou and said, my leg says that he doesn't like you. Ha ha ha. Hearing Lin Jiej's words, Lu Benlai burst out laughing mercilessly at Xie Shangzhou. However, this time around, he didn't mock Xie Shangzhou at all. Instead, he quickly reined in his gloating smile and turned to Lin Jiej, boss, is there something wrong with little Junior recently? It's none of your business whether Soft Bun is a special case or not. Lin Jiej shot a sidelong glance at Lu Benlai before lying back down on the bed. Lu Benlai shook his head regretfully and sighed. It's a pity that little Junior is a special case. If our boss were to confess his love to her tomorrow, wouldn't he be unable to enjoy a night of passion anymore? What do you mean a night of passion is worth 1,000 taels of gold? What nonsense are you spouting? Lin Jiej closed his eyes, but for some reason, his ears felt a little warm. Chapter 4:17. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej asked, do you really think that Soft Bun will accept my confession? Lu Benlai, of course. Is there any girl in the world who would reject our boss's confession? Xie Shangzhou, unless she's not a girl. No, even if she's a guy, there's no way he'll be able to reject our boss's confession, unless he's inhuman. Lu Benlai, old Xia is right. Besides, the fate between me and my wife is as deep as the ocean. Just my wife's phone number is enough to convince little Junior to accept your confession. Xie Shangzhou, ever since I was young, I've never won the lottery or picked up money on the streets. I'm already so pitiful, so I don't believe that I'll be so pitiful that I won't even have a chance to regain my freedom. So, I believe that the heavens will surely grant little Junior and boss a happy ending on account of my desire to escape from my sister's clutches. Lin Jiej silently closed his eyes. He shouldn't have asked those two. What the hell did they know? Lu Benlai, boss will be married off tomorrow, and room 501 will have another empty bed. I can't help but feel a little disappointed. Me too, Xie Shangzhou said. My heart feels heavy. My nearly 9-digit savings just went into little Junior's pocket, just like that. Lu Benlai, but thinking about it, it's not a bad thing. This is equivalent to having another cloakroom for me, don't you think? Xie Shangzhou, now that you mention it, I guess you're right. I'll be able to smoke openly in the dormitory room, and I won't have to be chased to the balcony by our boss who hates the smell of smoke anymore. While their words were infuriating, there was still a good omen that he and Soft Bun would end up together. Forget it, I won't argue with them anymore. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej flipped his body over. Noticing Lin Jiej's actions, Lu Benlai hurriedly corrected himself, but I'm poor, so I can't afford to buy that many clothes. I don't need a second cloakroom. Besides, how can Song Chaoshi compare to our boss? Even if our boss isn't in the dormitory room anymore, we should still keep our bed, and we should kowtow to him 3 times a day. Xie Shangzhou, whose survival instincts were also off the charts, nodded in agreement. Smoking is harmful to one's health, and smoking indoors is also bad. I want to quit smoking. Lin Jiej's lips twitched as he asked, so, do you really think that Yao Yao and I will end up together? Lu Benlai, absolutely. Xie Shangzhou, there's no doubt about it. Hearing the confident words of the duo, Lin Jiej fell into deep thought for a moment before closing his eyes once more. Come to think of it, this seemed to be the first time in his life that he was so unsure of something. All along, he had thought of himself as a confident and composed person, but when it came to Soft Bun, he saw a flaw in himself. So, is this the feeling of loving someone? Worried about personal gains and losses, nervous and uneasy, paranoid, on the 29th, at 8 a.m., Shuyao woke up. She first went to the cafeteria for breakfast before returning to the dormitory to pack her things and prepare to go home. But before returning home, Shuyao made a trip to the hospital to pay a visit to Grandpa Lin. By the time she left the hospital and returned home, it was almost evening. After dinner, Shuyao accompanied her mother for a stroll downstairs. When she returned home, she saw that less than 111,111 had invited her into the game, so she logged into the game. Chapter 4:18. It was only 9 in the morning. She didn't sleep this early even when she was taking her examinations. Given that it was the start of the summer holidays, only a fool would sleep this early. Shuyao blinked her eyes and asked doubtfully, "It's still early, is that so?" Mr. Numbers replied with a single word before falling silent. After another round, Mr. Numbers, who had been silent for the better part of the game, spoke up once more, "It's already 10. Aren't you going to sleep yet?" This was really weird. In the past, they would play until 1 or 2 in the morning. What was going on today? Mr. Numbers kept urging her to sleep. Shuyao frowned and replied, "Isn't it only 10? Besides, I won't be able to fall asleep even if you want me to." "All right then, let's play another round." As the host of the game, less than 111,111's voice sounded in the room, and he started the game. At 10:27 a.m., Shuyao heard Mr. Numbers' hypnotizing voice through her earpiece once more, "Can you sleep now?" Shuyao tilted her head and pondered for a moment before a possibility came to her mind. "Do you have something to do? If you have something to do, you should go ahead and do it. 111111, I don't. I actually didn't get it right." Shuyao felt even more perplexed. "If you don't have anything to do, why do you keep urging me to sleep?" Tomorrow, you." Mr. Numbers seemed to have said something, but he suddenly fell silent. Shuyao waited for a moment, but seeing that Mr. Numbers wasn't saying anything, she couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong with me tomorrow?" Less than 111,111. Oh, I mean that you won't have the energy to sleep tomorrow if you sleep so late. Somehow, Shiryao felt that this wasn't what Mr. Numbers was trying to say, but she couldn't figure out what he was trying to say. So, she took a bite of the ham sausage and replied, "As long as I'm full, there's no way I won't be energetic." Mr. Numbers fell silent for a few seconds before he replied, "Even if you're energetic, you should still be sleeping. Sleeping early and waking up early is good for your health, especially for girls." Was it really that simple? Why didn't I believe it? Shiryao pondered for a moment as she ate the ham sausage, but she couldn't come up with anything. So, she said, "All right then. I'll play one more round before going to bed." After a few seconds, 1111111 said, "Okay." Then, the game began. A minute later, they boarded the plane, and as soon as the plane could be parachuted down, Mr. Numbers brought her down to the ground. After that, Mr. Numbers was run over by a car, and after that, she was left alone, watching helplessly as she was pummeled to death by the fists of two people. After that, Mr. Numbers' voice sounded in her ears, "All right, the game is over. You can go to sleep now." So, his so-called game was to bring her to the ground as fast as possible and turn her into a box. In that case, it would be better to have no game at all. Shiryao puffed up her cheeks. She couldn't be bothered with Mr. Numbers anymore, so she logged out of the game and went to take a bath. However, when she returned to the bedroom after taking a shower, she found that her phone had received a few WeChat messages and a text message. She took a look at her WeChat first. It was a message from Mr. Numbers. "Are you angry? I really want you to sleep early and wake up early. I'll give you back 10 chicken dinners later." Ignoring less than 111,111, Shiryao went straight to the message section. It was a message from Lin Jiej, "Tomorrow at 11 a.m., Mountain Changming. Don't forget about it." Chapter 419. Wasn't this something that they had agreed on a long time ago? Was he reminding her today because he was afraid that she would forget about it? Shiryao didn't think too much into it. She tapped on the screen a few times and replied, "I didn't forget about it. I remember it." Perhaps it was because Lin Jiej was looking at his phone, but a second after she sent the message, the screen lit up right after she put down her phone. Lin Jiej, on. His reply was simply to express that he had received her message, right? If that was the case, there was no need for her to reply to him, right? Shiryao pondered for a moment before deciding not to reply to Lin Jiej's message. Instead, she put down her phone and went to apply her skincare cream. Just as she was about to finish applying the lotion on her face, her phone rang again. It was another message from Lin Jiej, "It's good that you remember it. It's good that you remember it." Why does there seem to be something wrong with those two words? Shiryao stared at her phone screen for a moment, but she couldn't find anything wrong with it. Then, she remembered that Lin Jiej had sent her 2 consecutive messages, so she replied with, "See you tomorrow." Putting down her phone, Shiryao went back to applying her skincare cream. Her phone rang again. Logically speaking, she thought that Lin Jiej would reply with, "See you tomorrow," so she wasn't in a hurry to check his message. When she was finally done, she lay down on her bed and picked up her phone. It was only then that she realized that she had only gotten 2 words right. "Lin Jiej, I just checked the route. If we meet at 11 tomorrow, you'll be heading out at around 9:20. She wasn't a fool. It was common knowledge that she should know, so why did he have to repeat it to her? While Shiryao was perplexed, she thought that Lin Jiej was probably just giving her a friendly reminder. So, she still replied with a friendly tone, "I understand. Thank you." Yao thought that this was the end of the conversation, but a minute later, she received yet another message from Lin Jiej. Will you be able to wake up tomorrow? Do you need me to wake you up? It's 9 in the morning, not 5 in the morning. Why can't I wake up? Is Lin Jiej sure that I didn't ask the wrong question? Yao blinked her eyes, thinking that her eyes were playing tricks on her. She read the message carefully once more, but before she could reply to Lin Jiej's message, another message popped up on her screen. Perhaps you should set an alarm. Forget it, I'll pick you up tomorrow and wake you up, seriously. It's just a field trip. Why does he make it sound so important? This wasn't Lin Jiej's style at all. The more Yao read through the message, the more she felt that something was amiss. Biting on her finger, she pondered for a moment before a thought suddenly struck her, and her eyes lit up. She swiftly typed, I got it. You're not Lin Jiej. You're Sis Jai, right? Only Sis Jai would treat her as though she was ignorant of the ways of the world, caring for her as though she would be at a disadvantage no matter what she did. Without waiting for the other party's reply, Yao, who had already confirmed her suspicions, continued sending messages. The closer it got to the confession, the more nervous Lin Jiej became. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to wake up the next day, so he set an alarm clock every minute and set 10 alarm clocks in a row. Chapter 420. But before he could even finish writing his message, he received a reply from her. She said that he was Lin Jiej. In the past, she treated me as her grandfather, and now, she's treating me as her sister. Just what in the world is she up to? Lin Jiej was just about to give Yao a call when he received yet another message from her. Sis Jai, I know that you're concerned about me, but I'm not a child. I know how to take care of myself. I'm the one who's concerned about her. What Sis Jai? Lin Jiej harumphed inwardly as another message popped up on his screen. Yao, but Sis Jai, I'm still very grateful to you. Let's meet at the entrance of Mountain Changming tomorrow. Mwah. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Lin Jiej's attention was instantly captured by those 3 words. Mwah. Mwah. Soft Bun sent me a mwah. Even though she thought that he was Lin Jiej, the fact that she sent it to his phone meant that she was sending it to him. Mwah. With this thought in mind, a faint smile crept up Lin Jiej's lips. Perhaps it was due to his lack of response, but Yao realized that something was amiss, so she sent him another message. You aren't Sis Jai. It looks like Soft Bun isn't as dumb as she used to be. Lin Jiej raised his hand and replied, what do you think? Yao, Yao, I'm sorry, I thought that you were Sis Jai. Yao, that's because I know Sis Jai to be a gentle and considerate person. But when did you become so naggy, gentle? Considerate. Lin Jai. Are you sure these 3 words can be put together? It can't be that Soft Bun's language was taught by the gatekeeper, right? Naggy. Why did those messages sound like concern to Lin Jai, but naggy to me? Do you have to be so blatant about the difference in treatment? Forget it, there's no need to make a fuss about it. After tomorrow night, Soft Bun will be mine. As for Lin Jai, what kind of storm could a woman like her stir up? With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej took a look at the time. It was already close to midnight, so he quickly replied, it's getting late. You should sleep early. Yao, good night. Lin Jiej, good night. Seeing Lin Jiej's good night, Yao didn't respond to his message. Instead, she put down her phone, turned on the sleep light, and closed her eyes. Just as Yao was about to doze off, she suddenly thought of a certain matter. Mr. Numbers had been urging her to sleep while they were playing the game that night, and after she received Lin Jiej's message, Lin Jiej had been worrying that she might never wake up. These were clearly 2 different matters, but why did they feel so similar to one another? They were originally cold and reserved, but they suddenly became so talkative and long-winded. This increasingly strange scene made her a little uncomfortable. But then again, how could two people change at the same time? What a tacit understanding, as if they were the same person. Lin Jiej's alarm didn't come in handy at all. He woke up before 5 in the morning, and after that, he couldn't fall asleep anymore. He woke up before 7 o'clock, took a shower, and washed his hair. He tossed and turned for a full hour before he stopped. Chapter 421. Lu Benlai, 1 word, handsome. 2 words, super handsome. 3 words, super handsome. 4 words, so handsome that I'm turning gay. I'm not interested in you. Lin Jiej coldly interrupted Lu Benlai's words as he looked at Xie Shangzhou. Compared to Lu Benlai's exaggerated compliments, Xie Shangzhou was even more unconventional. Boss, your looks are out of this world. Even if you're wearing the emperor's new clothes, you're still handsome. The emperor's new clothes. Isn't it just streaking? Lin Jiej glared at Xie Shangzhou. Xie Shangzhou shuddered and quickly changed his words. Boss, what I meant earlier was to compliment your looks. I didn't mean to imply anything else. You're really handsome. If I were a woman, I'd be racking my brains to climb into your bed every night. Lin Jiej sneered coldly as he tossed an indifferent dream on at him. Then, he raised his chin toward the mirror. Even though he had agreed to meet Shuyao at the entrance of Mountain Changming at 11, but Lin Jiej was already waiting at the entrance of Mountain Changming before it was even 9. It was still early. He had slept late last night and woken up early in the morning. Sitting in the car, he waited for a while, and eventually, he felt a little drowsy. He took a look at the time and confirmed that it was still early. So, he set another 10 alarms before closing his eyes. At 10:30, his alarm rang punctually. Lin Jiej yawned as he adjusted the back of his seat and sat up. He looked at the mirror above the car, and just as he was about to check the dashboard, someone knocked on the car window. He turned around and saw that it was Shuyao, who had arrived half an hour earlier than him. He quickly put away the mirror and pushed open the car door. Morning. Morning, Shuyao replied. Then, she asked, have you been here for long? Nope, I just arrived, Shuyao replied with an oh, not suspecting anything. According to their original plan, Lin Jiej would bring Shuyao to a nearby farmhouse after the two of them met up. Even though Shuyao had arrived half an hour earlier, there wasn't enough time for them to do anything else. So, Lin Jiej suggested that they have lunch first. Of course, Shuyao wouldn't turn him down. It was already 1 in the afternoon by the time they finished lunch, so Lin Jiej and Shuyao entered Mountain Changming. Even though it was summer, the trees were lush, and the river was gurgling. The temperature was several degrees lower than in the city. The two of them walked along the ancient stone path up the mountain. Many people came to the Changming Mountain for sightseeing, and many of them were couples. Seeing a man buying a bottle of water for a lady, Lin Jiej followed suit. Seeing a man holding an umbrella for a lady, he also bought an umbrella for Shuyao. Seeing a man taking a photo for a lady, he also asked Shuyao if she wanted to take a souvenir. On the way up Lianshan Mountain, there was a wishing tree with wooden plaques tied with a red string hanging from it. Seeing that there were couples going there to make a wish, Lin Jiej brought Shuyao along as well. Just like that, under Lin Jiej's guidance, the two of them managed to reach the midpoint of the mountain. Lin Jiej remembered that these few days were a special period for Shuyao, so he asked her if she was tired and if she wanted to take the sightseeing bus, but he was rejected. In the end, he still called for a sightseeing bus to bring them up the mountain. As they wanted to enjoy the scenery along the way, the speed of the sightseeing bus was very slow. By the time he reached the top of the mountain, it was already dusk. The sun was setting in the west, and the entire mountain top was dyed red. Today's weather was exceptionally good. The sky was blue and the clouds were white. Enjoying the cool breeze of the evening, Lin Jiej took in the scenery of Mountain Changming. Subconsciously, his gaze fell on Shi Yao, who was standing by the side. She was taking pictures of the setting sun with her phone, and Lin Jiej turned his head to look at her. Chapter 422. As the sun gradually set, Shi Yao, who was done taking photos, turned around and said to Lin Jiej, "I didn't think that such a remote place would have such beautiful scenery." Lin Jiej nodded as he turned his gaze to the clouds not too far away. "But the most beautiful thing isn't the scenery." His voice wasn't too loud, and the wind was too strong, so Shi Yao didn't hear him clearly. "What is it?" Lin Jiej didn't say a word. He gazed at the clouds for a long while before replying, "It's nothing. Let's go and have dinner." "All right." Shi Yao immediately put away her phone, and a smile crept up her face. Then, she turned around and headed toward the small town on the mountain. Lin Jiej followed behind Shi Yao, and as he stared at her back, he couldn't help but recall the words he had said earlier. "But the most beautiful thing isn't the scenery but you." Lin Jiej brought Shi Yao to an open-air restaurant. Compared to the bustling scene when they first entered the restaurant, the place where Lin Jiej and Shi Yao were seated was much quieter. The dining table was huge, and Shi Yao and Lin Jiej sat facing each other. At the center of the table was a bouquet of fresh flowers, and beside it was a candlestick with 9 candles. Beneath the table was a burning mosquito-repellent incense. It was hard to tell what kind of flowers were planted around them, but the fragrance was strong, but it wasn't pungent. Lin Jiej had ordered the dishes in advance, so after he and Shi Yao took their seats, the waiter asked, "Mr. Lin, shall we serve the dishes now?" Lin Jiej nodded without saying a word. With a smile, the waiter replied with an "all right" before leaving. Not too long later, a waiter pushed a cart over. After the waiter placed the dishes on the table, Shi Yao picked up her chopsticks, and just as she was about to pick up the sweet and sour pork, a thought suddenly occurred to her, and she raised her head to ask, Isn't this the summer camp? Where are the others?" When she saw him alone in the afternoon, she thought that the others had already gone up the mountain. Yet, it was already dinner time, and it was still just the two of them. Hearing Shi Yao's question, Lin Jiej, who was in the midst of scooping soup for her, raised his head in bewilderment and asked, "What others?" Shi Yao blinked her eyes, and it took her a moment to recover. "You only invited me to the summer camp." "That's right." Lin Jiej nodded as he placed the bowl of soup in front of Shi Yao. "Thank you." Shi Yao fell silent for a moment before replying, "I thought that you and I weren't the only ones at the summer camp. There'll be others too." "I didn't. I only called for you." Lin Jiej raised his head to look at Shi Yao. The flickering candlelight reflected in his eyes made him look even more dashing and handsome. Shi Yao opened her mouth, wanting to ask why, but before she could do so, Lin Jiej, who was seated opposite her, spoke up once more, "I have something to tell you later." So, he called her out because he had something to talk to her about. What a coincidence, seeing him today, she also had something to talk to him about. Could it be that they wanted to talk about the same thing? With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao's eyebrows creased into crescents as she said, "Me too. There's something I want to talk to you about today." Ha! To think that soft bun would also have something to tell him. Could it be that she had prepared a surprise for him as well? But her surprise shouldn't be bigger than the surprise he gave her, right? Lin Jiej maintained his composure and said, "Shall we talk about it after dinner?" "Sure." Shi Yao nodded in agreement. An hour later, Shi Yao finally put down her chopsticks. After the waiter left with the dessert, Shuyao asked, "What do you want to talk to me about?" Chapter 423. What about you? Don't you have something to tell me too? Lin Jiej asked as he stirred the coffee in front of him. Since it was Soft Bun who was speaking first, he might as well let her speak first. Thus, he said, "Why don't you tell me what you want to say first?" All right then. Shuyao didn't stand on ceremony with Lin Jiej. After agreeing to his request, she looked at Lin Jiej through the candlelight and said, "I've found out about one thing, and that is that Grandpa Lin has been feigning illness all this while. So, I think I can bring up the matter regarding the annulment of our engagement with your family, Grandpa." Feigning illness. Annulment of our engagement. Bring it up with my family. As these words drifted into Lin Jiej's ears one after another, he suddenly felt as if someone had smashed his head with a wooden club several times, causing him to freeze on the spot. There were still remnants of the doting and indulgent look on his face when he had allowed Shuyao to speak first earlier. He stared at Shuyao for a long while before blinking his eyes lightly. Then, with a hint of uncertainty in his voice, he asked, "What did you say? Did I not express myself clearly earlier?" Or perhaps, he was doubting my claim that Grandpa Lin was feigning illness. Shuyao pondered for 2 seconds before speaking once more. Just like before, her voice was still as gentle as before. "I received a video a few days ago. In the video, Grandpa Lin and Auntie Sun were having a hot pot together in the hospital ward. In the video, Grandpa Lin seemed to be in high spirits, and he didn't seem to be sick at all. Because I don't really like the person who posted the video, I didn't believe her at the time. But on the second day of the summer holidays, I went to visit Grandpa Lin. When I arrived, Grandpa Lin's condition was indeed very bad. He was coughing non-stop and his face was swollen. At that time, I thought that the person who posted the video was definitely slandering Grandpa Lin. But I didn't stay for long before Grandpa Lin asked me to go home. I didn't think too much about it and left the ward. But when I reached the entrance of the hospital, I realized that I had left my subway card in Grandpa Lin's ward. When I went back to get it, I saw Grandpa Lin playing chess with the people in the ward next door. He was even eating ice cream. That was how I knew that the person who posted the video wasn't lying to me. As Shuyao spoke, she took out her phone and tapped into her photo gallery. She found a few photos and pushed them over to Lin Jiej. "Look, these are the photos I took that day. You'll know that I'm not lying to you after seeing them." Shuyao spoke for a very, very long time, but Lin Jiej felt as if he was listening to a heavenly book. With a dazed expression, he leaned against the back of his chair, maintaining his previous posture for a long while before he slowly turned his gaze to Shuyao's phone screen. Just as she had said earlier, it was really a scene of Grandpa Lin playing chess and eating ice cream with another person. Completely oblivious to Lin Jiej's thoughts, Shuyao waited for him to stare at the photo for a moment before speaking up once more. "I was thinking of calling you yesterday to tell you about this matter, but after some thought, I realized that I'm going to the summer camp with you today, so I decided to tell you today." Due to the long period of neglect, Lin Jiej's phone screen had already turned black, but he was still staring at Shuyao's phone. Chapter 424. There was still no response from Lin Jiej. Shuyao frowned as she called out once more, "Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej." After she called out his name twice, Lin Jiej's body suddenly twitched a little as he turned his gaze to Shuyao and asked, "What did you say?" "I said, when are we going to tell your family about the annulment of our engagement?" Shuyao repeated her words once more. Lin Jiej replied with an "oh" before falling silent once more. However, this time, his mind didn't go completely blank like before. This was completely different from what he had expected. Didn't they say that it would be a surprise? This was practically a shock. Also, Is there something wrong with my grandfather? Why did he feign illness when he had nothing better to do? So what if he was faking it? Why did he have to expose it now? What number one godly assist in the history of mankind? That's just a goddamn trap. However, Soft Bun said that she had confirmed that her grandfather was feigning illness yesterday, and she had thought of calling him to bring up the matter immediately. However, she remembered that she had an appointment today, so she decided to delay it until today. In other words, deep down in Soft Bun's heart, she had never forgotten about the annulment of their engagement. Chapter 425. Besides, we're still young. After the annulment of our engagement, we'll both be free. You can look for your true love, and I'll look for my lover, lover. At this point, Lin Jiej was already at a loss for words. He could clearly hear the sound of something shattering coming from his chest. He found it hard to believe, and he was at a complete loss as to what to do. This was completely different from what he had imagined. He had been worried that he might forget his lines when confessing to Soft Bun, worried that Soft Bun would reject him, and of course, he had also imagined Soft Bun being overjoyed to see the scene he had meticulously prepared for her. Perhaps, she might even tug on his sleeves and burst into tears. All in all, he had never thought that Soft Bun would bring up the annulment of their engagement again. Was he too confident all this while, thinking that she would be his just because he liked her? Or was he just having a nightmare? Weird. Why is Lin Jiej so silent? Shuyao waited for a moment, but seeing that he wasn't going to speak, she could only ask once more, why aren't you saying anything? Lin Jiej reined in his thoughts and replied, nothing. Hearing his reply, Shuyao continued, have you thought of a day when we'll have a showdown with your family? Lin Jiej wasn't in a hurry to answer her. Instead, he secretly pinched his thigh, and the sharp pain shattered his fantasies. This is real, not a nightmare. Why isn't it a nightmare? Now, in this kind of situation, how was he supposed to answer her question? Should he tell her that he didn't want to annul the engagement, or should he tell her that he didn't like her? But no matter which answer he chose, wouldn't he be met with a rejection? After all, her reaction earlier was so clear. She didn't like him, and she had been thinking of annulling the engagement from the very start. Shuyao, Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej snapped out of his daze. He looked at Shuyao's face through the candlelight, and his tone was a little nonchalant. I'll have to think about it first. Shuyao, then, when can you give me an answer? Lin Jiej only managed to utter a single word before he suddenly found himself at a loss for words. He fell silent for a moment before changing the topic. Let's talk about it later. It's getting late, so we should head down the mountain. Without waiting for Shuyao's response, Lin Jiej gestured for the waiter to pay the bill. When the attendant passed the bill over, Lin Jiej was just about to sign it when Shuyao suddenly recalled that Lin Jiej had something to talk to her about, so she quickly asked, right, didn't you say that you have something to talk to me too? Hearing Shuyao's question, Lin Jiej tightened his grip on the pen. With a lowered eyelid, he signed his name calmly. However, due to his excessive force, he ended up cutting through the bill. After the attendant left, Shuyao asked curiously, what do you want to talk to me about? As her voice fell, colorful fireworks bloomed in the air not far away, dazzling and dazzling. Accompanied by crackling sounds, faint cheers could be heard from the surroundings. Lin Jiej turned his gaze toward the horizon. Chapter 426. There are actually fireworks at the peak of Mountain Changming. It's so beautiful. Shuyao tilted her head upward and looked at the horizon. When the fireworks finally dissipated and the surroundings returned to silence, the two of them finally retracted their gazes from the horizon. The two of them sat facing each other, and their gazes collided. After a brief moment of silence, Shuyao asked once more, "You haven't told me what you wanted to say." "Oh." Lin Jie replied absent-mindedly. A moment later, he said, "It's fine now. It's fine now. Didn't you say that you wanted to talk to me about something? Why is it fine now? Could it be that he really wanted to talk to me about the same matter as I did back then?" With such thoughts in mind, Shuyao asked, "Is the matter that you want to talk to me about the annulment of our engagement?" "Solve your head." Lin Jie ignored Shuyao and stood up, looking as if he was about to leave the room. Shuyao thought that Lin Jie had tacitly agreed to it, so she tidied up her things and stood up as well. After leaving the restaurant, Shuyao followed Lin Jie to the bus stop. The sightseeing bus that Lin Jie had booked was waiting for them. Shuyao walked up to the bus and climbed in first. When she was seated, she noticed that Lin Jie was still standing by the side, so she frowned and asked, "Why aren't you getting in?" Lin Jie's tone was very calm, and his words were irrelevant to her question. "The driver is waiting at the foot of the mountain. He'll send you home after you get down." Shuyao asked, "What about you? Aren't you going down?" Lin Jie stood beside the bus nonchalantly and replied casually, "I'll go down later." Oh. Shuyao thought that Lin Jie had other matters to attend to, so she didn't dwell on the matter. Seeing that the two of them weren't chatting anymore, the bus driver turned to Lin Jie and asked, "Sir, can you send young mistress down the mountain now?" Lin Jie nodded, not saying a word. The bus driver got on the bus, and before he started the engine, Shuyao suddenly recalled the annulment of their engagement. She turned to Lin Jie and said, "Right, remember to let me know when we're going to annul our engagement." Lin Jie didn't even bother replying to Shuyao as he turned around and left. Staring at his back, Shuyao frowned. Was he unhappy? But what was he unhappy about? She did not say or do anything wrong today to provoke him. While Shuyao was speaking, the driver of the sightseeing bus had already stepped on the brakes. Seeing that Lin Jie had left, he asked once more, "Young miss, can I set off now?" Shuyao retracted her gaze from Lin Jie and replied to the tour bus driver, "I'm done." "Okay." The driver of the sightseeing bus stepped on the accelerator, and the bus slowly drove down the mountain. Shuyao stared at the road ahead for a moment before turning her head around to look behind her. As it was a straight path, she could still see Lin Jie. He had already stopped and did not continue forward. He stood under a street lamp with his head slightly lowered. No one knew what he was thinking. He looked exactly the same as in her memory. Even if she couldn't see his face clearly, just looking at him from afar was enough to attract her attention. But for some reason, Shuyao couldn't help but feel that Lin Jie wasn't in a good mood at the moment. It was as if there was something weighing on his mind. As the sightseeing bus drove further and further down the mountain, Lin Jie slowly disappeared from Shuyao's sight. It was only when he was completely out of sight that she turned her head around to look at the street lamps that were moving backward one after another, and she fell into a daze. Chapter 427. By the time Shuyao reached home, it was already close to midnight. It was already very late, so after taking a shower, she went straight to bed, intending to sleep. She had walked quite a distance during the day, so she was already feeling sleepy in the car. But now that she was lying on the bed, she found herself unable to fall asleep. She had no idea what was going on with her, but when she closed her eyes, she suddenly recalled Lin Jie's appearance when she turned around to look at him. When they met in the morning, he seemed to be in a good mood. In fact, when they were climbing up the mountain, he even took care of her like a gentleman. Why did he suddenly become like that after dinner? Shuyao carefully replayed the events that had taken place during dinner. It seemed like after she said that Grandpa Lin was feigning his illness and that they could call off their engagement, he started acting a little weird. Could it be that it was because Shirya was shocked by the next thought that came to her mind. Did she eat a bear's heart or a leopard's gall? To think that Lin Jiej would actually be unhappy because she proposed to call off their engagement, it was true that he wasn't as hateful toward her as before. In fact, he seemed to be treating her pretty well, and there were even times when his actions moved her a little. But that didn't mean that he didn't want to call off their engagement. She recalled the words he had said back then. Those words that had made her feel inferior for a very long period of time. I don't want to. This ugly, dirty, and shabby lass, I don't want her to be my fiancée. Your identity as my fiancé was acknowledged by my grandfather. As for me, don't even think about it. I'll never acknowledge you as my fiancé for the rest of my life. Thus, I'll leave my words here for you. Listen carefully, Lin Jiej. If I don't break off our engagement, will write my name backward. Shiyao pursed her lips as she burrowed her head deeper into the blanket, trying to conceal the sadness that was welling up in her heart. She must have been muddle-headed from exhaustion to have such thoughts. How could Lin Jiej possibly think of getting involved with her? Perhaps he was thinking about how he should bring her to his family for a showdown, or perhaps he was thinking about something else that was bothering him. G University Male Dormitory, Room 501. It's already 12, but our boss isn't back yet. It looks like he's not going to return. Lu Benlai remarked as he played his game. I always thought that other than that bastard Song Chaoshi, among the three of us, I would be the first to stop being single, and boss would be the last, but I didn't expect boss to be the first. Xie Shangzhou's fingers quickly tapped on the phone screen. Xiao Lai Lai, there's a Voldemort on the left, hit him. I saw it. He's dead. Lu Benlai finished reloading his gun before continuing Xie Shangzhou's words. I share the same thoughts as you, but I think that I'm the first of the three of us to leave our singlehood, and our boss will be the last. Sigh, it's really hard to predict. Xie Shangzhou sighed. Alas, the two of us will be alone in dormitory 501 from now on. Lu Benlai, in the blink of an eye, two of my roommates have already married off. This room feels so empty. I'm finally experiencing the feeling of marrying off one's daughter. Chapter 428. Lu Benlai reflexively turned to look at the door, and seeing that the person he and Xie Shangzhou were talking about, Lin Jiej, had returned, he subconsciously shut his mouth. Immersed in the game, Xie Shangzhou didn't notice the commotion at the door. Noticing that Lu Benlai had gone silent, he thought that the latter was done speaking, so he quickly added, "That's right, I feel the same way too." Boss's daughter, boss. Before Xie Shangzhou could finish, Lu Benlai hurriedly interjected. Boss what? Who do you think you're trying to scare? While Xie Shangzhou continued killing enemies in the game, he continued the conversation that Lu Benlai had interrupted earlier. I wonder if our boss's daughter will return home often after she gets married. Xie Shangzhou even sang the last few words of the song. Lu Benlai coughed twice to hint at Xie Shangzhou. However, Xie Shangzhou didn't get the hint at all. What are you coughing for? Are you envious of my singing? Why don't I sing a few more lines for you? Courting death is truly a skill. If you do it well, you'll ruin others, but if you don't, you'll end up killing yourself. Old Xia, if the heavens want you dead, I can still fight against them. But if you want to kill yourself, I can't stop you. Lu Benlai was still focused on his game, completely ignoring Xie Shangzhou's words. Oblivious to the situation, Xie Shangzhou really started singing at the top of his lungs. Come home often, even if it's just treating me to a steamed bun and some soup. as Xie Shangzhou's voice faded, he suddenly felt someone walking past him from behind, and he could vaguely feel a chill running down his spine. Shuddering involuntarily, he instinctively turned his head around, and it was then that he saw Lin Jie. He was so scared that his hand trembled, and his phone fell to the ground. Even the words in his mouth were stuttering. "BB boss, you, Xie Shangzhou stammered, "you," for a very long time, but he didn't manage to come up with anything. In the end, he simply turned to glare at Liu Benlai. Meeting his gaze, Liu Benlai replied with a helpless emoji. Xie Shangzhou replied with a "just you wait" emoji before turning to Lin Jie and asking, "Boss, are you tired? Do you need me to massage your legs?" Lin Jie ignored him. Xie Shangzhou grinned cheekily. "Boss, are you thirsty? Can I get you a glass of water?" After saying those words, Xie Shangzhou stood up and took Lin Jie's cup to the washroom to wash it clean. After which, he poured a cup of water and passed it over to Lin Jie. Lin Jie didn't take it. Xie Shangzhou thought that Lin Jie was angered by the song he had sung earlier, and his legs trembled in fright. So, he hurriedly tried to sweet-talk him. "Boss, congratulations on tying the knot with Little Junior. Congratulations to you and Little Junior for a lifetime of happiness." But before Xie Shangzhou could finish his words, Lin Jie suddenly looked as if he had just received a huge blow. His cold eyes suddenly turned icy as he glared at Xie Shangzhou and bellowed, "Get away from me." Xie Shangzhou was so frightened that he didn't even dare to breathe. Just as he was thinking that he was done for, Lin Jie, who was standing right in front of him, actually began walking toward the balcony in irritation, completely ignoring him. Chapter 429. After Xie Shangzhou and Liu Benlai finished speaking, incredulous looks surfaced on their faces. The two of them stared at one another for another 3 seconds, and as if they had discussed it beforehand, they spoke in unison once more, "Am I dreaming? I'm afraid I'm sleepwalking." Liu Benlai replied in disdain, "Can you stop talking when I'm talking?" Xie Shangzhou sneered coldly, "You're the one who insisted on imitating me, all right? Do you think that I'm interested in talking to you at the same time?" Liu Benlai replied magnanimously, "Forget it, I'm not in the mood to argue with you right now. All I care about right now is boss's happiness. What you care about is your goddess's phone number, right?" Xie Shangzhou mercilessly exposed Liu Benlai's hypocrisy before sighing deeply. "Say, do you think boss is feeling awful right now? Stop saying such hypocritical words here. You must be feeling awful for your future and freedom, right?" Liu Benlai exposed Xie Shangzhou's hypocrisy with a tooth for a tooth before sighing deeply. "Not bad, Little Junior. To think that she would dare to look down on boss. From this moment onward, Little Junior will be my idol. So many girls fell in love with boss, but Little Junior rejected boss. This is exactly like the lyrics of the song." Xie Shangzhou changed to singing as he spoke. "Those who love me are infatuated with me without regret, but I'm sad and crying for the one I love." Liu Benlai picked his ears and said, "Speak properly." Xie Shangzhou, as expected of my goddess. You're truly unique and extraordinary, completely different from those seductive sluts who only care about looks. Liu Benlai, the seductive sluts you speak of don't include my wife. Xie Shangzhou, Liu Benlai, I'm just speaking the truth. If my wife was a seductive slut who only cares about looks, she would have given me her number the first time we met. Puke. Xie Shangzhou was just about to vomit when the door to the balcony opened and Lin Jie walked in. He and Liu Benlai immediately grew serious. The two of them greeted Lin Jie one after another, "Boss." As if he hadn't heard their voices at all, Lin Jie walked past them impassively and entered the bathroom. When the bathroom door was closed, Xie Shangzhou patted his chest and said as if he had just escaped death, this won't do. The air pressure is too low. I can't take it. Lu Benlai, we have to think of something. Let's console our boss when he comes out later, or else he's going to suffocate to death tonight. 10 minutes later, Lin Jiej walked out of the bathroom. Lu Benlai and Xia Shangzhou glanced at one another before smiling brilliantly and calling out, "Boss," as they approached Lin Jiej. Lu Benlai, "Boss, it's normal for a girl to be a little emotional and reserved. It's normal for her to reject your first confession because she wants to test your sincerity." "That's right. Boss, do you remember a movie? It's called 101 Proposals. The male lead proposed 101 times. Lu Benlai, right. I've seen that movie before, and it's really good. So, boss, it doesn't matter if you fail the first time. Look at me, how many times have I been slapped in the face by my wife? My face is already swollen to the point where it's almost flying up to the sky, but I'm still relentlessly pursuing her. Xia Shangzhou, boss, don't worry. You'll definitely succeed next time. I believe in you." Chapter 430. After drying his hair, Lin Jiej glanced at Xia Shangzhou and Lu Benlai expressionlessly and said, "Did I say that I'm still going to court her?" "Ah. Something's wrong with this plot." Lu Benlai and Xia Shangzhou were stunned. 3 seconds later, Lu Benlai spoke up, "And no, you didn't. You're just giving her face by courting her. If she doesn't agree to it, then forget it." Xia Shangzhou, "That's right. Little Junior really doesn't know what's good for her." 3. Lin Jiej's voice sounded even more frightening than before. 2. Boss, you don't have to count anymore. I'll scram. Lu Benlai immediately turned tail and ran. "Boss, I was wrong. I said something that I shouldn't have said. I'll go clean the toilet bowl right now." Xia Shangzhou quickly followed suit and ran. Lin Jiej retracted the one that was already at the tip of his lips. He stood on the spot for a moment before putting down the hairdryer and lying on his bed. Lu Benlai and Xia Shangzhou could accept the silent Lin Jiej, the venomous Lin Jiej, and the furious Lin Jiej, but they couldn't accept the heartbroken Lin Jiej. He didn't speak, didn't play games, didn't work on any projects, and didn't even eat. Every day, he would lie on his bed with a cold face. If that was the case, Xia Shangzhou and Lu Benlai would have tolerated it. But when Xia Shangzhou was browsing through his computer, he noticed that pandas were really cute videos, and he couldn't help but comment, "Pandas are really amazing animals. They could have made a living with their strength, but they chose to rely on their looks instead. Do you know how much of a glutton pandas are? To be able to eat non-stop 19 hours a day without rest at all, they're truly gluttons." Xia Shangzhou really didn't think that there was anything wrong with his words, but as he spoke, he accidentally poked at Lin Jiej's soft spot, and the latter smashed a pillow on his head. He was so frightened that he didn't dare to say another word for the entire night. But there was also that one time when Lu Benlai was browsing through comedy videos, and he happened upon a cooking video. The background music was rather adorable. "You said that I'm too meaty and that I need to slim down, but I just can't get enough of it. I don't care, I want to eat meat. Only when I'm full will I have the strength to travel around the world with you." The song was quite nice, and the delicacies in the video were especially alluring too. After watching the video, Lu Benlai couldn't help but replay it once more. Then, for some reason, he had no idea how the song had offended Lin Jiej, but lying on his bed, he suddenly started counting threateningly, 3, 2. Of course, not daring to let him count to 1, Lu Benlai grabbed his phone and ran out of the dormitory room. That was not the weirdest thing. One day, Xia Shangzhou came back from work with a bowl of wontons. He was just about to dig in when Lin Jiej walked over. Thinking that it was Lin Jiej who wanted to eat it, he even passed the dumplings over to Lin Jiej enthusiastically and said, "Boss, have some." But in the end, Lin Jiej threw the dumplings he had bought into the dustbin in the corridor, and for some inexplicable reason, he added a new rule to room 501, no eating wontons. Such incidents continued to happen more and more, and the temperature in room 501 grew lower and lower. Lu Benlai and Xia Shangzhou felt that their days were becoming more and more intolerable. Just as the two of them thought that they were going to be tortured to death by Lin Jiej, and the temperature in the dormitory room dropped to the freezing point of winter, Lin Jiej suddenly packed up his stuff and returned home. Lin Jiej left the academy at 3 in the afternoon, and just as he was about to reach the entrance of his neighborhood, he received a phone call. Chapter 431. Lin Jiej left school at 3 in the afternoon, and just as he was about to reach the entrance of his neighborhood, he received a call. He casually took out his phone from his pocket. Before he picked up the call, he glanced at the caller ID and froze. He stared at the screen for a long while before he suddenly remembered that he had forgotten something extremely important because of Soft Bun. Because he was in a daze, the phone automatically hung up because no one answered. Just as he was about to return the call, the same number came in again. He picked up the call and calmly listened to the anxious voices coming from the other side of the phone as he walked into the neighborhood. It wasn't until there were no more sounds of breathing from within that Lin Jiej finally spoke up, "I understand. It's my fault for this matter. I'll definitely be there tomorrow." After hanging up the call, Lin Jiej noticed that there were many unread messages on his WeChat and SMS. He tapped into WeChat first. Other than messages from his classmates and project partners, there were also messages from Lin Jiej asking him if he was on summer break and when he would be returning home. There were also messages from Shuyao asking him if he wanted to play games. He scanned through the messages and didn't reply to any of them. Instead, he went straight to the messages. The first message was from 10086 for the previous month's bill. The second message was from Shuyao. "Regarding the annulment of our engagement, have you thought about when you're going to tell him about it? You haven't decided on a time yet." It had only been 2 days and 3 nights since they had parted at Mount Changming, and she had already sent him 2 messages. Did she want to break off the engagement with him that badly? Lin Jiej stared at his phone for a moment before locking it and stuffing it back into his pocket. He was almost at the entrance of the house, but the door wasn't closed. A maid was currently cleaning Lin Jiej's car in the courtyard. Upon seeing Lin Jiej, the maid immediately stopped what she was doing and greeted, "Young master." Lin Jiej didn't react in the slightest. He continued walking straight into the house. It just so happened that a servant was squatting at the entrance, opening a package. Upon seeing Lin Jiej, she immediately stood up and helped him grab a pair of slippers. "Young master, you're back." Without saying a word, Lin Jiej lowered his head and changed his shoes. The servant continued to open the package while asking, "Young master, these are fresh fruits that just arrived by air. Do you want to eat them? I'll refresh it for you later." Lin Jiej, who hadn't eaten anything since morning, was starting to feel a little hungry. Facing the servant's question, he finally opened his mouth and asked, "What fruits do you have?" The helper glanced at the fruit she had just taken out and replied, "Passion fruit." Passion fruit. Isn't that one of Soft Bun's favorite fruits? Lin Jiej pursed his lips, and he fell silent once more. The servant thought that Lin Jiej's silence was a tacit agreement, so she continued asking, "Young master, how would you like to eat the passion fruit? Would you like to drink the passion fruit lemon tea, or would you like to have the passion fruit mixed with bird's nest?" Before the maid could finish her words, Lin Jiej had already interjected with a deep voice, "Did I say that I wanted to eat passion fruit?" The maid was rendered speechless by Lin Jiej's words. You didn't say to eat, but you didn't say that you wouldn't eat either. After a few seconds, the servant continued, then, in addition to passion fruit, there are also loquats, watermelons, pineapples. Was he possessed? Why are all of them Soft Bun's favorites? Lin Jiej spoke up once more, interrupting the maid's words. Do you have normal fruits? Chapter 432. The maid stared at the fruits she had just mentioned with a dumbfounded look on her face. These fruits are so much fresher than those sold in supermarkets, so why is it abnormal? However, the maid only dared to grumble inwardly. On the surface, she still replied warmly, other than those fruits, there are also pomegranates. Pomegranates? All 5 of Soft Bun's favorite fruits are here. This time, Lin Jiej didn't even give the maid a chance to continue listing the fruits as he bellowed furiously. What kind of nonsense are these fruits? Are they meant for humans to eat? Who told you to buy them? Did you get kicked in the head by a donkey? Lin Jiej's sudden outburst frightened the maid into taking half a step back before replying meekly, "Young master, you were the one who told me to buy them." Lin Jiej subconsciously wanted to berate the maid for her blatant slander, but before the words could reach his mouth, he abruptly fell silent. He was really the one who told her to buy them. As they were all Soft Bun's favorites, he wasn't sure when she would come to his house, but he had thought that as long as he had the maids prepare these fruits for her, she would be able to eat them whenever she came. No matter how perfect his plan was back then, it seemed so unnecessary now. He used to loathe her so much so that he wished that she didn't exist in this world at all. It had only been a short semester since they had met, which barely counted as 4 months. How was it that he could see her shadow everywhere in his life? After the maid blurted out that Lin Jiej was the one who told her to buy the fruits, she immediately regretted it. Seeing Lin Jiej's cold expression, she thought that she was doomed this time around. She might even be fired. Just as she was about to apologize, Lin Jiej, who was standing before her, brushed past her in his slippers and headed up the stairs, as if she didn't exist. Before Lin Jiej could push open the door to his bedroom, the door to the neighboring room was pulled open, and Lin Jiej walked out. Yo, NATM. You still know how to go home. Ignoring Lin Jiej pushed open the door to his bedroom. Seeing Lin Jiej's cold expression, the smile on Lin Jiej's face widened. Are you in a bad mood? What's wrong? Who provoked you? Is it because you've fallen out of love, or is your period coming? Having his wound stabbed, Lin Jiej's complexion darkened even further. He walked into his bedroom and subconsciously tried to close the door. Lin Jiej didn't hold it against Lin Jiej, who had been ignoring her the entire time. Instead, as they walked toward the staircase, she asked out of goodwill, "I had someone send some Häagen-Dazs over yesterday. Do you want some? I'll get one for you." Lin Jiej was just about to close the door when he suddenly froze. Lin Jiej knew that Lin Jiej wanted to eat it, so she asked, "Do you want strawberry-flavored ice cream or strawberry vanilla ice cream?" Strawberries, ice cream. Aren't these Soft Bun's favorite foods? And it was his favorite food. Just by looking at her IGN, "Y'all loves ice cream," Lin Jiej silently tightened the corners of his lips. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.